across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good morning. Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, standing in for the vacationing Julia Hartley-Brewer all the way to 1 o'clock. Prepare for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get stuck in, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, August the 20th. Here's what's coming up. A stunning victory for Epping District Council after a court ruled that the government can't just go round secretly commandeering hotels, surround them with steel barriers, black out all the windows, fill them full of migrants and still call them hotels. But look closely at Labour's not-so-legal argument as to why they should be allowed to carry on turning luxury hotels into taxpayer-funded barracks for asylum seekers, and that's where the shocking truth comes spilling out. Keir's crew believe that their sacred duty to the human rights of foreigners who break into our country illegally is more important than the rights of British citizens to have a say in the local areas in which they live. More important than the right to safety for British women and children on our streets. Listen to Labour's lawyer, Edward Brown KC, as he informed the High Court yesterday that a ruling in favour of worried Epping residents would, and I quote, substantially interfere with the Home Office's legal duty to avoiding a breach of the asylum seekers' human rights. Good. I'm sure we'll all lose a lot of sleep about the human rights of the 2 migrants in Epping's Bell Hotel who have been charged with sexual assault. The balance of convenience, added Mr. Brown, can never favour a course of conduct that runs a real risk of interfering with fundamental human rights. In other words, what you want for your local community, I don't know, maybe not hundreds of undocumented young men of sexually active age loitering around, committing crimes and causing a dangerous atmosphere, is dismissed as merely a convenience that is nowhere near as crucial as these foreign lawbreakers' human rights. This, folks, is outrageous. Aren't you sick of this insulting claptrap that puts decent British people second and migrants first? 0344 499 1000. Also, in me learned friend's view, the verdict on Epping will incite more violent protests by communities that will be encouraged by this triumph for the people. The High Court decision, warned Barrister Brown, also, and I quote, runs the risk of acting as an impetus for further violent protests. What violent protests? Yes, the demonstrations outside asylum seeker hotels have been passionate, at times heated, but violent? Hardly. You get the sense that Starmer and his cabinet crew can't wait to revert to their default setting, calling concerned Brits battling for their own neighbourhoods far-right thugs. This is a human rights-obsessed government at war with its citizens. Who's going to win? 0344 499 1000. In other news, the shocking £1 million wasted by David Lammy's spend Foreign Office on lost phones, lost computers and tickets for journeys that were never taken. Also today, after a sleazy copper was convicted of stealing a woman's underwear during a search, the plummeting faith in Britain's hopeless police forces, the plucky disabled lady who tackled a shoplifter with her crutch, only to be told by the Rozzers that she faced assault charges. What's going on? The latest on flag wars as patriots continue to defy local councils by hanging Union Jacks and St George crosses on lampposts, and Donald Trump's solemn pledge that any peacekeeping force will not involve American boots on the ground, but could see British forces heading for Ukraine. British soldiers on the front line there in Ukraine. And what do you think about that? 03444991000. And finally, Father Ted writer Graham Linham on the growing fear that the wonderful world of the arts is pandering to what J.K. Rowling calls the gender Taliban. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday morning together. Now, first off the bat, let's go straight to my waiting guest, the excellent independent MP for Great Yarmouth and also leader of the Restore Britain movement, Rupert Lowe. Good morning, Rupert.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well, and I think both you and I should be in a fairly jubilant mood this morning because that was a stunning victory by Epping Forest District Council over what I would say are the forces of the government and the forces of wrong. The barrister's argument, as I was just quoting in my monologue, the barrister's argument for why the people of Epping should be ignored and the Bell Hotel should continue to house hundreds of migrants, asylum seekers, two of whom have been charged with sexual assault, by the way, was extraordinary. It basically said that the government's sacred duty to the human rights of asylum seekers is more important than the rights of British people to safety on their streets, to have some kind of say in their own neighbourhood. He also said that if you rule, he warned the High Court judge, if you rule in favour of Epping, it will encourage further violent protests by communities who fancy their chances of getting rid of their asylum seeker hotels. Well, what violent protests? There haven't been any. Yes, they've been passionate, they've been heated, but not really violent. You know what's going on here, Rupert. Keir Starmer wants to revert, as I said again, to his default setting of calling decent, honest, worried British citizens far-right thugs. Well, he can't do that because they're not far-right thugs and they haven't been violent. The argument by the government's barrister in court yesterday was a national disgrace, if you ask me.
Well, Kevin, first of all, let me say how well you do your monologue. You do it very well indeed.
Thank you.
I enjoyed listening to it this morning. Secondly, let's call these people what they are, which is illegal migrants. Let's call them what they are, not asylum seekers. They're illegal migrants, the majority of them, fighting-age young men. And I want to give credit really to the people of Epping Forest who, as you say, stood up quite correctly in the interests of their local community, and peacefully they have put pressure, brought pressure to bear, and their council has, to its credit, now brought this case and they've won the first leg of it, and let's hope they continue to win. Common sense, if our judiciary was doing its job, should be that the interests and the if you like, well-being of the British tax-paying public should be at the top of the agenda here. I've always said the job of the council is to look after its constituents. The job of the government is to look after its electorate. As you say, I think I have no faith in the A-team of Yvette Cooper and Angela Eagle protecting our borders, Kevin. I mean, you couldn't make it up, but if with the will, with digital technology, and there are many nascent British companies that could provide that technology, we could help give our IT sector a huge boost. We could protect our borders. We're very fortunate to have the channel, which has always provided us with protection and continues to do so if we choose to use it. But for various reasons which are better known to them, they seem to think it's okay to allow these illegal migrants to come in here, to then expect the British taxpayer to pay for their new phones, healthcare, education, dental treatment, food, spending money, whatever else we give them, and at the same time plant them without any discussion or consultation in the middle of honest, decent, tax-paying communities who value the protection of their children, their women, and everything they hold dear. So I'm hoping this will be the trigger for other councils now to take the lead from Epping Forest and to start fighting for their constituents and doing what they should be doing, and that's protecting the interests of those people who've helped build this country into what it is, who pay their taxes, who live in a law-abiding way, and don't expect to be put upon by people who don't share our culture, and very often, as you say, do things in terms of, and it's proven, crime rates go up. We see all sorts of cultural oil and water not mixing. So I think it's great news, and what we've got to do is hope that this, if you like, starts
like a chain reaction. I hope it does.
Yes.
Can you bear with us for a second, Rupert? I'm going to play what the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, said on the BBC's Today programme this morning. See if you can make any sense of it.
Could you at least answer, just so specifically, if it's not hotels, as Security Minister, what is it?
So for reasons that I completely understand, you're focusing on one particular bit of this problem, and I'm evidencing the activity right across the sort of the spectrum of the challenge in terms of the leveraging diplomatic relations with our partners internationally and stopping the flow of people getting to the northern beaches of France in the first place, which is my primary area of concern.
That's his primary area of concern. I would have thought that, as you said, Rupert, soaring crime rates around the country, hundreds of these asylum seekers charged with serious offences, many of them sexual. I would have thought that should be the government's primary concern. Never mind about them getting to the northern French beaches, which I admit is a problem. How about stopping them leaving the northern French beaches? How about stopping the boats coming? This is a government sort of using deflective language to get around the fact that they are not tackling the migrant crisis at all. The one in, one out scheme so far has added up to about 2,500 in, none out. That is not working. Nothing else is working.
One in, one out scheme is a bit like us lobbing $500 million at France every year and then helping the migrants over here, which is what's happening.
Exactly.
So, I mean, when are we going to be led by people who actually know which way is up and are able to negotiate in a way which protects and benefits the British people, not damages their interests? So these people have travelled across multiple safe countries, and if you listen to Macron the other day, he actually told us what the answer is. Stop making them think there's a pot of gold when they land in Dover.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Kevin, it's not rocket science, and I've told people the solution, and people say, well, what are we going to do with them if they have to leave the hotels? Very simple: to take them to an offshore island and give them a tent and some porridge, and when they're ready to go home, facilitate them going home. Yeah. But do not damage the fabric of Britain by settling these people who are not welcome here across this country, and without any consultation with the people who already live there. We're already overcrowded. We're suffering huge amounts of taxation. We're expected to pay more, and you probably hear these Machiavellian plots about wealth taxes and property taxes and everything else. That's quite a simple solution too. Cut the size of the state, stop state waste, cut the number of state employees, and start to act as referee, not player, which is what the state should be doing. Look, it's very straightforward, and it's time for our electorate to stand up. They need to now fight. We can feel our country, Kevin, slipping through our fingers.
Yeah, I'm not exaggerating, Rupert, when I said in my monologue. This comes across. People might say, "Oh, you're taking a very sensationalist angle here," but this feels to me, when we look into the rancid soul of this government, as depicted by this Edward Brown, the Home Office's barrister.
I'd rather not, Kevin.
Yeah, but if we look into their rancid soul, this is a government that is obsessed with the human rights of these people who break into our country, and it sees that as a priority of the rights of people who live in this country, British citizens. In other words, I think this is a government at war with its own people. And I hope the people win. I think yesterday's verdict may be the beginning of a national victory over a government that cares more about illegal foreigners than it does its own citizens.
It's so illogical, Kevin, that I'm forced to conclude that it's effectively part of a Machiavellian plan to punish the 17.4 million members of the British electorate who voted to, shock horror, leave the protectionist post-war socialist European Union. And I think, again, as you know, our majority of our ministers, the majority of our civil service, the majority of the people don't share the same view as the electorate who is supposed to be their boss. And I do think this is a kind of retribution through the back door, rather like devolution was, to try and break Britain up into regions, or break England up into regions, if you like, and effectively promote the Scottish flag, promote the Welsh flag, and denigrate the St George's Cross, which is why I'm so keen that we do start to fly the St George's Cross. I'm going to buy a flagpole and start flying one from the end of my drive. I think time for the English to be patriotic now in a peaceful way, and to show that we are ultimately the economic engine of these islands. We have always in the past embraced the Act of Union. But quite frankly, Kevin, I think devolution has been designed to damage the interests of our islands. We need to reverse it. We need to effectively get rid of the waste in Scotland. You probably saw the latest economic figures from Scotland showing that their GDP is now 55% is the state. Their deficit per household is now nearly £45,000 per annum. They are basically relying entirely on the English taxpayer, not just through the Barnett formula, but they are not creditworthy without being part of the Union. The same with Wales, and yet the English are put upon, we're taxed into oblivion. The economic engine of this country is basically that triangle between Manchester, Birmingham and Leeds, where you've got 30 million people who basically are enterprising and run real businesses. Now, you know, obviously we've had our financial markets, which Tony Blair and his merry band have done their very best to destroy through over-regulation via the Financial Services Market Act. But at the end of the day, we need some serious changes in the way in which this country is thought through and governed. And the British people have got to wake up, because if we don't get that change by 29, we're going to have a big problem. So I urge everybody, join Restore Britain right now, and we can start to make a difference.
And I hope, Rupert, you will restore pride in our national flag, the Union Jack, and here in England, the St George's Cross. There's
both the Union Jack and the St George's Cross.
Yeah, exactly. There's a joke going around at the moment that if you want to get the potholes that infest your borough repaired, go and paint a St George's Cross on them, because then the council will be down on it like a ton of bricks and get rid of it. I mean, we're laughing about it, but this is happening on some of those painted white roundabouts. Patriots have painted red crosses on them to make them look like the St George's flag, and the council are there almost within seconds to get rid of the Red Cross. Now, you know what it's like trying to get councils to do anything, like things like, I don't know, collect the bins regularly. No chance. But you paint a St George's Cross somewhere and they are there to get rid of it ASAP, as soon as they can. These councils are fostering this weird shame that they seem to feel in our own patriotic flag.
I think, Kevin, the EU and the people who basically played this original part, we won't go into the history of it now, the European coal and steel community from then onwards, the Marshall Plan, all that sort of stuff. But I think they're frightened of English nationalism. And what they try and always do is to hold English nationalism down and turn it into a dirty word. Well, I actually think it's time for the English to be proud of who they are, to be proud of their history, to remember the things that we've done. You know, we're criticised for our empire, but if people want to criticise the British Empire, I suggest they have a very good look at the Belgian Empire, or they have a very good look at the French Empire, because if they want to start attacking people for bad behaviour, start there. Do not start with the British Empire, which on the whole was benevolent and has provided some extremely good structures for places like India to improve the average standard of living for the majority of their people. So no, I think the whole thing has gone badly wrong. We're led by people who mainly don't know their history. They are not interested in their history. They'd rather forget about it. And I want to see a return to some form of logic, fairness, common sense, and I want this country to return to what it can be. It's got the best people. We've got a fantastic structure everywhere. And what we need to do is ensure that we do common sense things that benefit the people who live here and who have built this country into what it is. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you something. It's a throwback to what happened on Friday, but I'd be very interested to get your take on it because one of the other great scourges of what's going wrong in this country is obviously two-tier justice, two-tier policing. We saw on Friday the extraordinary acquittal of the Labour councillor, the London Labour councillor, Ricky Jones, who was filmed, caught on camera in an anti-racism demonstration, which were a kind of counterpoint to the riots that were going on, or the protests that were going on all over the country in the wake of Southport. So there's this counter demonstration, anti-racism. He's there, filmed, caught on camera, shouting, these far right, so-and-sos, we need to cut their throats, we need to get out there, they don't deserve to live, and so on and so forth. He was charged with the rather mild offence of encouraging others to offend. He could have been charged quite very justifiably with inciting violence, which was what Lucy Connolly, the keyboard warrior, was charged with and indeed pleaded guilty to and got 2 years and 7 months. This guy called for people to be killed. Doesn't matter if they were right wing or not.
He even drew his finger across his throat.
Yeah, exactly right. And he was found not guilty. That is an egregious example of two-tier justice. In other words, Lucy Connolly, a housewife 200 miles from the Southport trouble, writes something, not particularly well advised on Twitter, a few hurty words. She gets 2 years and 7 months because she's perceived to be right-wing, right of centre. In this country now, it seems to be an offence to be right-wing, but if you're left-wing, you can literally get away with calling for murder. Extraordinary.
I don't think Lucy Connolly was either right-wing or left-wing. I think she was just a concerned mother after the Southport catastrophe. And again, she deleted the tweet. What she said was ill-advised. But yes, Kevin, I don't think she's right-wing. I think she's just a concerned citizen. And she expressed that arguably in too strong a way, which I think had she pleaded not guilty and had she had better legal advice and not relied on legal aid, she probably would never have gone to prison. But that shows you the deficiencies of the system. With regard to Ricky Jones, no, I mean, I've been at first hand, I've seen the way in which this police, non-crime hate incident nonsense works. I think, I had to attend an interview at Hammersmith Police Station. I've never been in a police station in my life. I've got a completely clean record after 67 years of paying my taxes and living honestly. But there were 2 palpably false witness statements made against me. Absolute. I can't get a copy of them. Police won't give them to me. They should, because you're supposed to be told what you're accused of. I've seen at first hand how these things operate. Indeed, I've had some death threats, and the police have told me there isn't enough evidence to investigate them. So I've written back to them to say, well, please explain to me why, when somebody makes a tweet, in order to get a Twitter account, they have to have a name and they have to have either an email address or a phone number.
Rupert, I've got advice. Rupert, get back in touch with the police and tell them that you've become a communist. Then they'll chase the person who threatened to kill you.
No, but there's no doubt there's a two-tier policing structure. There's no doubt that I think decency and fairness are being penalised, and in many ways, it feels to me that we are protecting and promoting the wrong people within our society. We're not punishing the people who are damaging our interests. We're almost promoting them. And crimes go unreported in my constituency. We are told that crime's down, it's not down. People just aren't bothering to report it. And I'm actually encouraging all my shop owners to actually report shoplifting because, again, this nonsense the other day. You probably saw it, where some shopkeeper put up a sign calling
the scumbags,
shoplifters scumbags. Well, they are scumbags. Yeah. They're total scumbags, and he's quite right to call them that. And, if people go shoplifting, they should be prosecuted. Well, we should be protecting honest, decent businesses in the same way that a lot of these illegal migrants are going off and working for Deliveroo and working for other shadow economic operations, which then in itself undermines those people who are living honestly and paying their taxes honestly. Yeah. So when are we going to get real and start protecting those people who make a contribution to our society, who take risk, who generate wealth, who pay people? And it really irritates me also when the government goes on about how we're not going to tax working people. Yeah. Well, working people, Kevin, are a function of people who employ them. Everybody's in it together. Our businesses are family businesses. Yeah. It's not, there's no difference between the two. Yeah. And they just don't seem to get it. We're not all part of this unproductive, parasitic state, which basically sucks the blood out of all of us, over-regulates us, and basically damages our economic well-being.
I'll tell you what, Rupert, I know you're a busy man, but I would encourage you to try to listen to the later bit of my show, because later on, this will knock your socks off. Later on, we're going to be interviewing a lady, a disabled lady. She's 57 years old. She lives in Blackpool, and she got sick and tired of people shoplifting from her local grocery store, saw this guy who she'd seen stealing 3 bottles of wine in that same day, and tried to stop him. Said, "Stop doing this." When he came for her, she sort of lifted up her crutch to kind of avoid his attack. Of course, subsequent to this event, the police have informed her that she may face charges of assault, attacking a shoplifter with...
Well, you'll approve, Kevin, you'll approve of Restore Britain, one of our putative policies, and we're just finalising and perfecting our Direct Democracy app, which our members will be able to give their view on our policy we're going to push forward in September. But one of our putative policies is an Englishman's home is his castle. And honestly, my view is, and it always used to be this way, that if somebody breaks into your house and threatens you, your property, your family, then ultimately what happens to them is their problem. It should not be the problem of the householder. And until we get back to some sort of bedrock of common sense like that, that's going to be one of our policies, and I'm very strong on that. Good. I don't want to get to the American stage where you knock on the front door and somebody shoots you through the front door, but I do want to see people being able to
protect their own property, stick up for their own rights, absolutely,
in whatever way they see fit, and they should be immune from any form of prosecution.
Absolutely, Rupert. Rupert, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's Rupert Lowe, MP for Great Yarmouth, independent MP, former Reform, of course. When he was talking about having to go to Hammersmith Police Station, I think these were to do with allegations made against him by the Reform Party, which he was no longer a member of by then, allegations that seem to have dissolved away. Nothing has happened. So anyway, next up, we are going to talk to someone from Epping, one of the Epping residents, after their amazing triumph in the High Court yesterday. You won't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
they should all be processed immediately and be deported. And those 138 odd in the Epping hotel, for example, they've got until September the 12th, so they've got 3 weeks. Process them rapidly, reject them all because they've come here illegally, and deport them. And if there's a crossover, then yes, people need to be housed in former military camps. What's wrong with some good UN-type tents? And let's deport them. Germany's deporting people to the likes of Afghanistan. We should be doing the same.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As we were discussing, as I began the show, an amazing triumph for the people of Epping, as Epping Forest District Council scored an astonishing victory over the government, saying that you got to close down the Bell Hotel. It's full of migrants, and you never told us. Government droning on about the human rights of asylum seekers, that their sacred first duty is to that, and the court ruling, the High Court ruling, was no. You didn't tell anyone about this. You can't go round closing hotels, surrounding them with steel barriers, blacking out the windows, filling them with migrants and saying they're still hotels. They're not. They've become taxpayer-funded barracks for foreigners who broke into the country. That's what they are now. So you can't keep calling them hotels. So they lost. And now the 100 or so asylum seekers who have been enjoying the lovely area of Epping will have to go, which will be great news to my next guest. She is mum, campaigner, Epping Forest resident, Sarah White. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Kevin. How are you? I'm
very, very well. Well, first of all, tell us what you think about yesterday's verdict.
I couldn't be happier. The people of Epping have really pulled together, and it's down to the residents of Epping coming out, protesting, that have ultimately achieved this. It wasn't down to the local councillor, because she didn't attend one protest, and she should be ashamed of herself. She turned up last night to claim glory to a massive achievement, and I'm just so happy with every single person that has showed their support throughout this.
And what did you think? I'm just talking about this, that the government, they hired this barrister, my learned friend Edward Brown, KC, King's Counsel. He told the court that if it ruled in favour of you people in Epping, that would substantially, I'm quoting here, substantially interfere with the Home Office's legal duty to avoiding a breach of asylum seekers' human rights. So what the government's line on this is, the reason they didn't want your Bell Hotel closed to asylum seekers is they believe that the human rights of these foreigners, these migrants who broke into our country illegally, are more important than your rights to live a safe and happy life in the lovely town of Epping. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not surprised, to be honest, because we've seen for a long time now that the citizens of the UK are put so low down the pecking order, and the government do not care about us, and they certainly don't care about the people of Epping. And, I just think that now this is going to create a domino effect, and hopefully the rest of these so-called hotels that are housing illegal migrants will be closed.
And do you know, yeah, I do too. I think it's going to be a chain reaction around the country. I mean, and the actual legal problem with what the government's been doing is that it has claimed that it hasn't changed these hotels at all. It's just put some migrants in them. Well, if you take a hotel that's open to the public, like the Bell used to be, and then you surround it by steel barriers, you black out all the windows, you put security guards around it so no members of the public can go in, you can't carry on calling that a hotel. That's the problem. The government wanted to call that a hotel. What do you think also, Sarah, of the government's argument through this barrister, Edward Brown, that when you people was saying, look, we're worried. We're worried for our safety. We're worried for the safety of women, for the safety of children, particularly after 2 of your foreign visitors living at the Bell Hotel were charged with sexual assault. This was dismissed. Your argument, our streets are not safe, was dismissed as you going on about your own convenience. The balance of convenience, he said, can never favour a course of conduct that runs a real risk of interfering with fundamental human rights. So your convenience, which, by the way, constitutes a desire for safety on your streets, for women and children not to feel threatened by a bunch of foreigners about whom we know nothing, is categorised, dismissed as a convenience. What do you think about that?
Well, I'd like to see this gentleman put in our position then and see how he would feel if his children, wife was being sexually assaulted. Would he think that, would he feel the same? And this is the question. Why aren't these people having to endure what people are having to endure in Epping? They can sit in their ivory tower and say whatever they want. And it's not a convenience. We want to feel protected and safe. And that is something that we are entitled to. People of this country have evolved over centuries and have morals and good work ethics. The people that are landing on our shores illegally come from a place where they have an ideology of women being not even a second-class citizen. So, and I totally disagree with him.
Well put, Sarah, absolutely. And finally, let me ask you this, right? The other argument of the government, which I think is outrageous, again in the High Court yesterday, was that if the High Court ruled in your favour, which thankfully it did in the end, that would encourage more violent protests, because other communities would say, well, if we violently protest, they'll close our local asylum seeker hotel down. Now, I know that the protests in Epping and around the country have been passionate, they've been heated. There's been a few clash points, but they're not violent. They're saying that you people of Epping, protested violently. You didn't, did you?
No. I mean, it's just a massive insult. And the thing is, you can see from the amount of protests we've had on a weekly basis, 2 days every week, we have been very peaceful. On the first 2 protests, yes, there was some disruptions, but isn't it funny that the disruptions were when the left and Antifa turned up?
Yeah.
And over the last few weeks, the police numbers have diminished because the police officers said to myself, because they liaise with myself and some of the other members of Epping, and they said, you're very peaceful and we've done a risk assessment and you're not at risk. We're not at risk of you, and neither is anybody else in Epping. Yeah. So they just spread lies. And, I think the left need to be called out a little bit more on their own actions because they're the ones that are inciting violence. Yeah,
you're a mum. A lot of the protesters were parents, local people, worried about safety on their streets. And you know what's going on the left. They want to say you're far-right racists, and that's outrageous. It's wrong, and pretty much it's the government's standpoint. Congratulations, Sarah. Well done on an amazing victory. It's not just a victory for Epping. I think it will turn into a great victory for the British people. So here's to you. Thank you so much for your time. Sarah White, Epping Forest resident, mum and campaigner. Let me know what you think about what she said. We're going to go to break now, take a couple of calls next, and then we're going to talk about flags later in this hour, so you'd better stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to talk about flags, the latest on flag wars. The Patriots still all over the country putting up Union Jacks and St George Cross flags in defiance of their unpatriotic local councils. I say good for the flag flyers. We'll talk about that later. First of all, let's take a couple of calls, though. Let's go to Suffolk and talk to Sandy. Hi, Sandy. You want to talk about migrant hotels? We all do. What's your line on it?
Hello, Kevin. I just wanted to say I think there's a whole host of things in this country that should be withdrawn from migrants, e.g.
the right to be here? How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
I haven't been able to get an NHS dentist in Suffolk for the 21 years I've been here, but they can.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Sandy, sorry to interrupt. A couple of weeks ago on my evening show, we did a sort of exclusive story about a hotel down in Sussex, and we got footage inside the hotel and everything. They get twice weekly visits, both from NHS doctors and nurses, but also dentists. NHS dentists, as you say, for British citizens like yourself, NHS dentists are like gold dust. You can't ever get an appointment with them. But if you're a migrant, they're there for you. Unbelievable.
And the other thing, Kevin, is legal aid. In the sort of 1980s, when I was still practicing, legal aid was given to people in divorce cases, personal injury, Inheritance Act claims. British people can't get legal aid for any of those things now, but migrants can get legal aid, and they're not even British.
Well, are you a solicitor, Sandy? Were you a solicitor?
I was a legal executive.
Right.
I ended up doing conveyancing.
Okay.
But also I lived in Tenerife, Kev, for a year, and
Nice.
if I wanted to attend a clinic or anything like that, you had to pay for your own interpreters.
Yeah, well, not here. You don't. We pay for them. You know what you say about legal aid, Sandy? This is my bugbear. I keep saying this. You know, if we could do one thing, you know, there's all sorts of things we should do to deter migrants from pouring across the channel into this country illegally. All sorts of things we should do. But the one thing that might change the dial, if we just wanted to do one thing, stop giving them legal aid. It's so bizarre. Simple. It's insane. We let them break into our country illegally, then we give them lawyers that we pay for to argue their case to stay. Why don't we just say to them, right, you've claimed asylum, you better fight your case, so you better pay for your own lawyer because we're not paying for it. That way they probably would stop coming. Just one thing. Yeah.
I mean, did you hear Mike Graham the other morning when a chap called in? He'd had rheumatology problems, and at the hospital they told him he would be referred to a consultant urgently. 700 and something days later, he's still waiting. But as you just said to me, doctors are going routinely into migrant hotels.
Twice a week at least, and dentists.
Doctors treating that British bloke who's been waiting 700 odd days.
Because, Sandy, as is quite obvious, as I said in my monologue at the beginning of the show, we have a government, we have a culture now that prioritises the interests and the needs and the wants of foreigners, migrants, asylum seekers over the needs and the wants and the desires of British citizens, and that is all wrong. Sandy, I've got to move on. Great call, though. Thank you very much. Please call me again, Sandy in Suffolk. Let's quickly go to always a good caller, Daniel in Epsom. Hi, Daniel. How you doing?
Hi, Kev. Great show. I just want to ask where the democracy is. Where is the democracy in Britain? It's now patently clear and obvious that the British majority don't want and have never wanted illegal immigration. Okay, we're completely against it. We don't want it. We don't want it in our towns. We don't want them here at all. We don't want them in houses. We don't want them in hotels. We just don't want them, Kev. No. Right? And we can see that mass immigration from the third world is basically destroying the fabric of Britain. It's ruining our country, okay? We can all see the decline and the degradation in our society, and we don't want it, and we've never wanted it. And if the British majority feel this way, why are they purposefully ignoring us? The government work for us.
I think Daniel, because they hate us. I don't think they like us at all. They do think we're a bunch of far-right racists, because we're a bit worried about the fact that hundreds and hundreds of thousands of young men of sexually active age, about whom we know nothing, are being let into the country day in, day out. But see from the note on your call that you've raised an issue that I think is worrying. The problem with the government's approach to migrant hotels is they've done it secretly. They've changed the use of hotels and still call them hotels. They can't do that anymore. But you raised the issue with our researcher. Where do they go now? Well, here's the problem. What the government is also doing secretly all over the country is commandeering houses of multiple occupation. And the asylum seekers who hitherto have been in hotels may end up living next door to you. That's a problem, isn't it?
Well, that's even worse. Because how are you supposed to keep tabs on these people that the majority of Britons don't even want here? Yeah, you can't keep tabs on them if you're putting them next door to schools and next door to sort of single females. It's wrong. I mean, this is completely wrong, Kevin, and we need drastic action. We can't be governed like this anymore against our will, because. If how can you govern? The government work for us, but they don't do the things that the majority of Britons are desperate for. And that's why, Kevin, we're going to see civil unrest up and down this country grow and grow. And this government deserves everything it gets.
It does. And we saw, as I said earlier to Rupert Lowe, we got a window into the government's rancid soul in this case yesterday, where their legal argument, wasn't very legal at all, actually, against the people of Epping, who said you've got to get rid of this asylum seeker hotel. The government's argument was this: your convenience, the convenience of British citizens, isn't as important as the fundamental human rights of these foreigners who break into our country illegally. And that is the Labour government in a nutshell. Daniel, always good to talk to you, mate. I've got to move on, but great points as always. Daniel in Epsom. Let's go to break, and when we come back, let's talk flags.
Inflation's been creeping up now for a few months, and what's driving this, Mike, is it's pretty much food inflation is continuing to go up. So that's it, 4.9%, and this is not the direction that we want things to be going. And what we've seen, Mike, they were talking last week, Rachel Reeves, about the economy and comparing ourselves to some of the other nations. So let's do that with the inflation figures. France, 0.9%, Germany, 1.8%. So two of the big powerhouses of Europe, they're below that Bank of England target. So the government needs to look now, what are they doing wrong? Because inflation's so high.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. There's a feeling all over the country that patriots, that actually much of the horror, no doubt, of Keir Starmer and his socialist crew, that people all over this country, Britain, are proud of this nation, particularly in England, where they're proud to be English. We're proud of the Union Jack. We're proud of the St George's Cross. Now, local councils don't seem to like this. Birmingham City Council, after hundreds of flags were put up on lampposts, spent a lot of money pulling them all down, saying they were a risk to life. They were dangerous. Clearly that was purely just Union Jacks and St George's Crosses, because the Palestinian flags that adorn Britain's second city all over the place, they apparently are not a risk to life. They carry on flying. Same deal in Tower Hamlets in East London, where the leader of the council, a convicted felon, said, we're going to get these flags down as soon as possible. You know, as if there's some sort of abhorrent horror. It's disgusting to the eye. So people are still doing it. They're doing it all over the country. You can see it. They're even painting the roads. They're painting white roundabouts with red crosses. The council turning up in seconds to get rid of the white. You know, you show a bit of patriotism, and that's the way to get your council to act. Big joke going around now. If you want to get your potholes fixed, paint a red cross on them, white and red cross. Council will be over to cover that over as soon as you can say, I'm not patriotic, I hate Britain. That's what these councils seem to do. Let's talk to independent councillor down there in Sandhurst, Bracknell, Councillor John Edwards. Hello, John.
Hello.
Defy all over the country. I mean, we keep talking about Birmingham City Council and also Tower Hamlets Council, where there's been a lot of shall we say, renegade flag flying. But I think it's going on all over the country. I've seen quite a few around where I live. I think something is happening, that the people of this country, particularly England, are saying, enough. We're proud of our flags. We're proud of the Union Jack. We're proud of the St George's Cross, and we're going to fly the damn things. Councils don't like it. But something's going on, isn't it?
It's going. It's a patriotic outpouring, what's going on. And I think this is because of several reasons. I think, yes, it's a pushback. It's a pushback against this anti-British government, you know, whether that be signing off surrendering Chagos Islands, you know, international aid or international climate aid. They seem to be focused on everyone but the British people. So I think it's a pushback against that. I think it's a pushback against mass uncontrolled immigration, and yes, against illegal immigration and these hotels, which is quite honestly quite scandalous when our own residents are being left behind in inadequate housing, and some veterans are homeless. But I think it goes deeper than that as well. I think it's also about pushing our shared identity, you know, our collective memory, our cultural inheritance. You know, people feel that this is their home, and somehow that's wrong now. You can't say this is your home. It has to be a global, part of a global state. And I think people are just pushing back against that. And what gets me, Kevin, is that actually this is seen by many, or some actually, very few, as divisive by the Liberal and the left. But it doesn't have to be. You know, this is the social cohesion they've been talking about. But unfortunately, it's just not the social cohesion that they wanted. But it really is unifying, because the great thing about the Union flag is it's nothing to be ashamed of. And the same for the St George's flag. They belong to all of us. They represent equality and freedom and sacrifice. And also, more importantly, is this flag belongs to all of us. It's not the left are normally quite keen on flags, but they're normally keen on flags that divide people into little segregated groups. And I would argue that's what's divisive. An overarching Union flag, which represents all of us, is exactly what we should be doing. It's about unity. It's not divisive at all.
But the blatantly obvious spectacle of Birmingham City Council and Tower Hamlets here in East London, going round, ripping down. In Birmingham, hundreds of these flags were put up on lampposts all over the city. Quite a few in Tower Hamlets, and as you and I have both agreed, around the country this is happening a lot. But in those two councils, there they are, ripping down Union Jacks, St George's flags, all over the borough, all over the area, and going straight past Palestinian flags, which continue to fly high with pride. Palestinian flags are perfectly acceptable on the part of these councils, but the Union Jack and the St George's Cross are not acceptable. What on earth is going on, John?
Totally. There's a rush to take them down because they don't like them. You know, as you just rightly pointed out, the Palestinian flags and other flags will stay up for as long as you want, and there's no rush to take them down. As soon as it's a Union flag or a St George, they rush to take it down. Look, even if some were dangerous, which I don't believe is the case, I've never seen this type of rush to take things down before. Yes, take those down, but then encourage it. So, for instance, in my council, I put in a motion to fly a permanent Union flag in our memorial park. There's one flagpole at the moment, and it switches between sort of green flags and other flags. And I said, no, actually, this is great. If people want this, which they clearly do, let's put up a permanent flagpole. And even that attracted the usual suspects saying it was divisive. I even had someone call me racist for suggesting that we should fly our Union flag. So no, the double standards are there for everyone to see, and it's here as well. So when I put that post up suggesting this Union flag, the outpouring was so great to see. Residents were so supportive of it in the whole. And then people started posting pictures of their flags. They put them up on their windows, on their balconies. They started putting them up in their gardens. And it was just so great to see. And actually, the local Facebook groups, which invariably are run by, Liberal and Labour members, started just having to delete all these posts. I don't know why they were deleting them, but they were deleting all these posts of Union flags. And I think that's the thing that they're divisive, not the actual posting of the flags themselves.
You couldn't be more right, John. I think that the people have had enough of this conflation between patriotism, between the love of our flags, of our national flags, and racism, far-right racism. It's just that. It's an incorrect conflation, and it's got to stop. And we need people like you to carry on campaigning. So thank you so much for joining us, John. Let's talk again soon. Excellent councillor there down in Bracknell, Sanders. Independent councillor John Edwards. Is he right? What do you think about? So it's time to reclaim our flag, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. When we come back after the news, we'll be joined by the political editor of The Sun, Jack Elson. We have lots to talk about, including the fact that the Foreign Office appears to have lost about £1 million worth of laptops and phones and travel that they haven't paid for. So that next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to be talking about Ukraine. Donald Trump says that he will help the Europeans maintain some kind of peacekeeping force if some kind of agreement is reached with Putin. A peacekeeping force in Ukraine. Donald has generously ruled out American boots on the ground, but says maybe British boots may need to be on the ground, so that's all right, isn't it? No. Also, incredibly, we're going to be talking to a 57-year-old disabled lady from Blackpool who had enough. She got sick of seeing people stealing from a local grocery store, scumbag shoplifters. So she took a stand against one guy who kept nicking wine. He sort of came towards her with a bottle, so she sort of hit him with a crutch. And the police warned her that she could face assault charges. Really? So we'll be talking to Annie Valentine in just a little while. Also, we're going to find out about another row involving a dubious BBC guest. They don't really check out their guests before they get them onto the state broadcaster. Find out why later in this hour. Before we get to any of that, though, let's round up some of the political events, some of the big stories of the day in the excellent company of The Sun's political editor, Jack Elsom. Morning, Jack.
Good morning, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Well, let's talk first, get your take on the migrant hotel victory for the people of Epping. Perhaps you could give us the inside take on how Labour are responding to that, if only behind the scenes, because it's a stunning rebuke for the government's policies, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the inside track, Kev, is that they are scrambling this morning. And they are scrambling for a number of reasons. One, I think, because it goes to show that if people do go out and protest, then their voices might be heard because their councils will take on board their concerns and wage legal battles. But more importantly than that, I think that also, and the fact that obviously the whole row over migrants and illegal migration is back in the headlines is clearly damaging for them. But more fundamental than that is that yesterday's court ruling in Epping really does throw the entire policy of using migrant hotels into chaos, because what the fundamental grounds for this ruling was that hotels that had got planning permission as hotels are now going way beyond their original purpose, housing illegal migrants in them, and as the lawyers for Epping District Council says, it's having adverse effects on the communities. We've seen flashpoints and protests, and so what the government is really fearing now is that other councils will limber up and wage similar court battles. And we have already seen a few leaders of councils, Broxbourne Council, coming out of the traps this morning and saying that they are going to do the exact same thing that happened in Epping. And so you're left with a situation now where if the government is forced to close hotel after hotel in the coming weeks and months, the question then remains, where do you put these asylum seekers? And obviously the next best option for them is housing. The problem with that is that if you continue to put more migrants into housing, and let's be honest, most asylum seekers currently are in housing rather than hotels, but it will also add to the one. It's still expensive, but also it'll add to the fact that they're jumping the queue over locals that need housing. You remember Keir Starmer, when he was up at the liaison committee just before the summer recess, was asked, if not hotels, then where are you going to put the 30,000 people that are currently in hotels? And he couldn't really come up with an answer. He couldn't say housing, really, more housing, because many people are stuck on social housing waiting lists, many British people. And so it's a very, very tough option for them this morning, but it's only going to get tougher.
So panic stations at number 10 and in Labour Towers. Are they also worried, Jack? They must be, about the ineffectiveness, the palpable ineffectiveness of their latest alleged deterrent, 1 in, 1 out, which came into play exactly 2 weeks ago today. And the mathematics of it so far are something like 2,500 in, none out. They said, look, here's the first migrants earmarked for the scheme. You remember they were filmed going into the detention centre at Manston Airport, and that was the last we ever heard of them. So we were told that it was a pretty feeble idea anyway, that 1 in 17 would be chosen to return to France. The idea being that in the future people say, oh, I don't want to be the 1 in 17, so I'm not going to risk it. In actual fact, you know, most people will say, well, that's a 94% chance of being able to stay, I'll give it a whirl. That notwithstanding, it clearly has not worked as a deterrent. More than 2,500 migrants have come across the channel illegally since they brought 1 in, 1 out into play. It's not working, is it? They must be panicking about that as well.
Yeah, totally. I think the strategy is just really quite bizarre because, as you said, the numbers anyway, which would be returned, are pretty small. And if you were a would-be boat crosser, you'd probably take the odds of 1 in 17, wouldn't you, if you were going to come here free bed and board, taxpayer expense, and the rest of it. But more than that, if it's something that's going to be a deterrent, then people who are paying vast amounts to smuggling gangs over in northern France need to know that there is a real risk that you are going to be sent back, and they need to see these images. And at the moment, obviously, we had that original sort of burst of social media activity from the Home Office a few weeks ago, where they said they were detaining people and putting them in detention centres down in Kent. But since then, it's been total radio silence. We don't know whether people coming over here are still being detained. You would think not, because you would think the Home Office would be telling us if that was happening. But at the moment, we don't seem to know anything about it. And so I think it's about a 3 to 4 week period once migrants crossing from France can be sent back. Although even then, you know, we know that it's not going to be the very worst people coming over here, because the French get a veto on who they want to take back. And so I think that what the government really needs to do is show a very despairing and weary public that they are getting a grip on this. And I think that means day after day, they should be showing us videos, giving us updates about the people that they are detaining coming over here, the people they are sending back. Because at the moment, all people are seeing is boats crossing and the numbers going up. And so, you know, politically, it's very, very damaging for them. And at the moment, I don't see any sign that it's getting better. You know, Dan Jarvis, the Home Office Minister, was out on the TV rounds today saying that, the fantastic deals we struck with the French and the fantastic deals we struck with Germany means that we're doing more to stop smuggling gang activity. Well, the numbers don't back that up. The numbers show the opposite. It's 50% up since Labour got into power. And so they're really struggling at the moment.
And again, picking your brains about the behind-the-scenes reality that often governments try to shroud in secrecy. But the reality must be that, the Labour government, members of the cabinet, they're not complete morons. They must realise that smash the gangs, the strategy that Keir and Yvette Cooper have made so much of since they were elected into power almost a year and 2 months ago, has been a total disaster. They must know that isn't working.
Well, it's interesting. They sort of quietly dropped the phrase "smash the gangs." You know, all before the election, it was all anyone ever heard. When you asked about their illegal migration policy, exactly, it was sort of a 3-word catchphrase which they thought could get them out of really any fundamental scrutiny about what they were going to do, because they said they were going to axe the flagship deterrent, which was the Rwanda plan. Day one, they did that when they came in. They have poured hundreds of millions of pounds into this border security command, which they set up, into paying other countries to help, fight people smugglers. And listen, I think that going after people smugglers is a noble aim, and I don't doubt that Keir Starmer genuinely loathes these gangs. But alongside that, you need a viable deterrent, because these gangs are ruthless and they are bloody-minded. And if there is a market to cross the channel, and there are pull factors which enable people and tempt and lure migrants to cross the channel, then they're going to find a way to get through law enforcement. They always have done. Think about the drugs trade, the billions of pounds we've spent on this over the years, and it hasn't made the blindest bit of difference to the supply in this country. And so unless you have a viable deterrent which stops this, it's going to continue to perpetuate. And, at the moment, this one in, one out deal, it's still early days, but it doesn't seem to really sort of have the heft of deterring people. And so they need to get rid of the pull factors for one, the illegal working, the rest of it, every sort of thing which tempts people to come to Britain. And then also, they drastically need a plan to deport people who they can't deport. You hear them the whole time. They're very proud of this figure, 35,000 people they said they deported since the last election. Most of them are foreign offenders. Lots of them are voluntary returns. And enforced returns, fair enough, fantastic, that's great. But also there are just some people in this country who they find it very difficult to deport. Lots of Afghans they can't deport. You can't deport anyone back to Iran. So that's why there needs to be almost a third country like Rwanda or somewhere else where the people that can't, you can get them out of it so that they stop crossing the channel. Until that happens, I think this problem's going to get much worse.
Yeah, all of which just brings into sharp focus the ludicrous, impetuous, juvenile move by the Prime Minister the moment he came into power. First day, ditched the Rwanda deterrent. Labour politicians, the cabinet in particular, very fond of saying, well, it just didn't work. Actually, it didn't start. You should have tried it. After we spent £700 million of taxpayers' money, I think it was incumbent upon Keir Starmer to give it a go, but he chucked it straight down the drain. Possibly the worst decision he's made out of many very bad decisions.
Yeah, and look at the other countries that are now considering a Rwanda-style scheme. Donald Trump has started sending illegal migrants to Rwanda. The German foreign minister last year even suggested using the housing in Kigali, which is now lying empty, which British taxpayers paid for. Other countries throughout Europe they haven't necessarily launched them yet, but they are considering now third country processing. Now, Keir Starmer has said that while sort of a flat deportation scheme like the Rwanda plan was is never going to be resurrected, he will consider whether third country processing works. We haven't heard a peep out of that since he went to Albania, and the Albanian Prime Minister pretty memorably said that he wasn't going to use that country, mate. And so, it was. I think that they do need to get radical now, because it is, I think, in fact, if you look at the polls, it's borne out. Immigration is now the top priority of voters. Reform are obviously, stretching their poll lead. And so I think that it is going to be, a political necessity for Keir Starmer to solve this problem. It really depends on whether he has the mettle to do it. At the moment, it doesn't seem that he's really in the mood for getting tough enough.
Well, he should, because I think we reached crisis point. He's got to do something. He's got to do something very soon. Whether he will, of course, with Keir Starmer is always a moot point. We've got a couple more things I want to talk to you about, Jack, so let's do with this one fairly quickly, important though it is. Rachel Reeves proposing property tax on British citizens, and this has been caused, or her potential tax rate has been caused by the fact it's the unseen crisis that this country and this government is facing, is the massive debt problem that we've got that literally could bring us to the brink. Tell us about the debt problem and how Rachel is planning another tax raid.
Yes, I mean, Rachel Reeves is in a really tight spot at the moment because we are in a bit of a debt crisis, and what people don't often realise is the interest we pay on our debt every year is extraordinary. It's about £100 billion, so that's about twice the defence budget, and the interest we're paying on that is only going up. Bond yields at the moment, gilt yields, which is essentially private companies that buy government debt, are demanding much more interest on this debt because essentially the demand for it is falling. Not many people want to buy it because they do not believe that the government has the means to pay it off. And so Rachel Reeves now is getting into even a tighter spot going into her budget. She's ruled out VAT, national insurance, and income tax rises, although she did that before the election and then whacked up national insurers for employers tax to the tune of £25 billion. But she's ruled out raising those headline rates. She's basically bottled all spending cut commitments. You might remember there was that attempt to cut welfare by a pretty measly £5 billion, which they ended up backing down from in the face of that pretty...
they ended up with a bigger welfare bill, didn't they?
Well, exactly. Totally gutted their flagship welfare bill. And so if spending cuts are out the window, and to stay in her fiscal rules, which she says she's not going to change, growth isn't coming to bail them out because growth's still been pretty poor, even though they will tell you it is the best in the G7, which fair enough it is, but it's still not going to get them out of their wild spending commitments. And so the only thing she's really left with are taxes. And if it's not going to be the three main revenue raises of VAT, national insurance and income tax, she has to look for something else. And so she seems to have landed on property. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. There's some speculation today of a so-called mansion tax, in which case you'd levy capital gains on a primary property worth over a certain amount. So at the moment, you don't pay capital gains tax if you sell just your first residence. You only do it on a sort of second, third residence if you have that. But a primary property, which is expensive, over the tune of maybe £500,000, paying capital gains on that could raise the Treasury a lot of money. But I think that the real problem here, Kev, is that all we're talking about is tax hikes to get her out of this hole.
Yeah.
It seems basically assumed now it's tax hikes, whereas no one is looking at the other side of the dial, which is spending cuts. We spend so much in this country, absolute fortune. We spend £100 billion on sickness benefits alone by the end of the decade. No one is looking about the fat that can be trimmed, the cuts that can be made. It's basically assumed that the British people, once again, they're going to have to saddle even more in taxes, and a tax burden that's been as high since the Second World War looks to get bigger even again.
Well, Jack, that brings me very nicely to the last issue that I'd like to discuss with you in terms of saving money. The Foreign Office, run by Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who only recently threw a summer party for the great and the good that cost £50,000 in one night. Well, anyway, new figures reveal that the Foreign Office has lost basically £1 million over the past year, £926,000 to be precise, on lost computers, lost phones and missed travel. In other words, travel tickets that were bought but nobody turned up to make the journey. This is what the losses statement says from the Foreign Office. A variety of losses and fruitless payments in relation to lost IT and mobile equipment, missed travel, interest charges for late payments, unrecoverable advances and program-related stolen and looted assets. So basically, computers being lost, phones being lost, travel being booked, no one turning up to make the journeys. That has cost the Foreign Office almost £1 million over the last year. We reached out to the Foreign Office and asked them for a comment. Guess what? They haven't come back to us. But this kind of waste would be a good place to start, wouldn't it, if we need to save money?
Yeah, and every government comes in and always promises to clamp down on waste by Whitehall, civil servants wasting money, and every government seems to fail. And that is because the civil service is such a behemoth. It's so massive. It's obviously the custodian of so much taxpayer money, but they seem to have a lot of the time just a blatant disregard for taxpayer cash. I've seen it so many times, not just this story, but across the years that I've been a political reporter. Just the amount of waste and money just sort of put down the drain in Whitehall, because they have so much money which they're in charge of. They don't almost seem to recognise the value of anything. £1 million for them, that's a rounding error for what we have. Whereas actually, most people will look at that and just think it's an extraordinary amount of cash, which is being basically thrown away. And so I think that, value for money in the civil service has always been a huge problem, because there does seem to be just a bit of a, disregard for taxpayer and public funds. And so, it's a pretty extraordinary story again. But, the surprising thing is, Kev, is that it's not even surprising anymore. There's been so many of these stories that happen. It's just becoming a bit of a farce. And, Pat McFadden, sort of the Cabinet Office Minister, a few months ago, said that he was going to be really sort of getting to grips with
a
public
war
money.
on Whitehall waste.
Yeah, exactly. And all these sort of procurement cards, which civil servants are given. At the moment, it doesn't seem to be making much progress.
Absolutely not. Looking good in that political editor's chair there, Jack. Really good to talk to you. Jack Elson there, the new-ish political editor of The Sun. Harry Cole, his predecessor, of course, has gone over to the States, where he's going to be like the American editor of The Sun, reporting on Trump and all of that goes on over in America, which will bring us nicely to our next item after this break. We're going to talk about, Trump ruling out American American boots on the ground in any kind of peacekeeping force that may have to go to Ukraine in the event of an agreement with Putin, but not ruling out British boots on the ground. Thanks, Donald. Yeah, great of you. We'll talk to Steve Gill, former advisor to Clinton and Bush, after these messages. Stay tuned.
Let's also not forget, Ian, I think far too many legacy politicos for far too long have turned out to be border abolishing, Janus-faced plastic patriots who've used our national flag as a mere prop. Yeah. And I think, look, if we are to protect our great civilizational inheritance, conserve Britain as Britain, I think the flag has a very central role to play in that. And I think it's about time where we stop in its track, this mad self-immolations of the very foundations of our national unity, and that's the Union flag. And it's about time, I would say.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're just trying to get hold of Steve Gill. He's a former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations. We want to find out what his take is on the fact that Donald Trump has generously said that although a peacekeeping force in Ukraine, a potential peacekeeping force in Ukraine will not involve American boots on the ground, it may involve British boots on the ground. Thanks, Donald. We'll talk about that in just a little while. I said yesterday, I don't know, sorry to be cynical, but I'm pretty pessimistic about this peace process. Silence from Putin, haven't heard from him. He's the big elephant in the room, loving it. It all comes down to him. He's going to drive a wrecking ball straight through the whole thing, I'll guarantee you. But anyway, I mustn't be too pessimistic. Fingers crossed and all that. We do want peace, obviously. In the meantime, I can't get hold of Steve Gill at the moment. But let's go to a call. Let's talk to Peter in Edinburgh. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Kevin. Good show.
Thank you very much. You want to talk about migrant hotels, yeah?
Yeah, just a couple of points. I hope the lady that you had on earlier,
she's great, wasn't she, Sarah? Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. I hope she puts herself forward for the next local elections in Epping.
Couldn't agree more. I thought she was a very eloquent spokesman for the community. An eloquent spokesman for all of British people who are worried about this asylum seeker protest crisis. But here's the thing, and I see from the note on your call that you wanted to talk about this. The government's saying, oh, well, the trouble with this is a charter for more violent protest. This is a success for violent protest. These protests have not, even in Epping, where they've been quite heated, they've been quite passionate, one or two flashpoints, you can't describe them as violent. There haven't been no violent protests around the country. There's been a lot of protests, none of them violent, and yet the government trying to characterise them as violent. In other words, Keir Starmer wants to call us all far-right thugs again, doesn't he?
Just people with a lot of common sense. And the same goes for Westminster. We've got Westminster full of numpties who could not run a bath. And I hope up and down the country we have the average Joe and Joanne decides to put themselves forward, because the country is going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
One final point. I'm not sure if Rachel from accounts has ever been called Rachel Thieves, because that's what she is.
She has been called Rachel Thieves, quite accurately as well. A lot of people call her a lot of other names, but they're not really broadcastable on a family entertainment show like this. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter, really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Very good points. Peter in Edinburgh there. Yeah, it looks like our line to America has broken down. A bit like the peace talks. But we can't get hold of Steve Gill at the moment. We'll try and get him later in the show if we can contact. But maybe you could let me know what you think. The President of the United States saying that he'll back a peacekeeping force should there be, in the unlikely event that there's some kind of agreement to end the Ukraine war with Putin. It is agreed, or it is accepted, that there may have to be a boots-on-the-ground peacekeeping force in Ukraine from Europe, and that would involve British boots on the ground, other European countries, but not American boots on the ground. So I'm not quite sure what support it is that Donald wants to offer us, but it's not physical. Let me know what you think about that. 03444 99 1000. That said, I think, don't get me wrong, Donald Trump's done an amazing job getting us to where we're at, organising these talks face-to-face with Putin. At least he's trying desperately to move the dial. And all those asinine idiots who just say he just wants a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, he probably wouldn't mind one, but I think mainly he genuinely wants peace, if only for cynical financial reasons. This war, just like it's costing us, is costing America billions and billions and billions of dollars. He doesn't want to give Ukraine any more money. We, meanwhile, have given Zelensky £18.3 billion so far, and we've pledged to give him £3 billion a year until 2030, at least. Peace... never mind, peace is nice anyway. Who wants to see lots and lots of young men dying, thousands, hundreds of thousands, dying horribly on those battlefields in the east? But also, it's costing us. When Keir Starmer says, it's affected every family in Britain, you bet it has, in our pockets. Let's go to a quick call. Let's talk to Joe in Sussex. Hello, Joe.
Kevin, right.
Hi.
About the migrants, actually.
Yes, I know, migrant hotels. What would you like to say, Joe?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I got a story from a couple of years ago, actually, but the migrants, where are they going to go when they get them out of the hotel? So my story is, a couple of years ago, a friend of mine who's a landscape gardener used to cut grass in this council estate, and a woman he knew had 2 properties there. She rented out to the students, because there's a big student people in Brighton. Yeah. So one day, got rid of the students, and then she's got migrants in there now. And these migrants that were in there, he found out they were like tagged up as well, and there's tags on their arms.
Oh, they got tags.
Yes, and the thing is, so they're already in council estates or in properties anyway. So these people, it's great to get them out of the hotels, but they're going to be putting them in places where actually they're going to be closer to children and everything else. I mean,
you see, Joe, that is a problem. People say, if we get them out of the hotels, where are we going to put them? My view would be, how about put them back in France or put them back in their home countries? But that, in the real world, is unlikely to happen. So where do we put them? We know where they'll get put. It's into houses of multiple occupation. Now, apparently, we've got the best part of 40,000 migrants living at hotels right now, all around the country. Apparently, we have many more than that living in houses of multiple occupation. Now, what this amounts to, Joe, is that if we kick them all out of the hotels, which I'm fully in favour of, they will end up living next door to you, me and everybody else. They will be in your street, in your neighbourhood, in your town, in your city. So that would probably be a problem. here's the other thing, that the government's been very secretive about commandeering hotels. Doesn't tell anyone, suddenly commandeers them, and the next thing you know, they're full of migrants. They've also been very secretive about their purchasing and their commandeering of houses of multiple occupation. We heard yesterday 15 of these houses have been set up in Portsmouth, housing around about 500 migrants. And the local community, the local council wasn't even told. So we've already got a secret operation going on about houses of multiple occupation. It's a problem, isn't it, Joe?
In the hotels, we knew where they were, right? But when they put them out into the community, we won't know exactly where they are. Another quick one, because I've been trying to get on your show for 5 years.
Good to have you. Glad you made it, Joe.
Another quick one. I know someone that lives on the coast near Dover Way or Top Way. What about these? They're always sad about how many people who keep coming off the numbers, you know, but they're not accounting the ones that they don't know about. I mean,
I always say that, Joe. I always say, what about the ones that we don't catch? The ones that come across and actually just march into the country. Quite a few of them do that. I'll tell you another thing that happens. A lot of them treat our 4-star hotel service. They come in, they get processed, they get put in a 4-star hotel, and after good night's sleep, wash and brush up, they just leave, never to be seen again. So you're right. I mean, some pessimists estimate there may be about 10 million people in this country living here that we know nothing about. So in other words, the official population is around about 70 million. The unofficial population may be in excess of 80 million. It's all very, very worrying. Joe, I'm glad you finally got on the show. Keep in touch. We'll get you on next time. I'll look out for you, I promise. Joe in Sussex there. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Annie Valentine. She's a brave resident of Blackpool who fought back against the shoplifters. You know, shoplifters, those scumbags. Keir Starmer wouldn't use that word. But here's what he calls shoplifters. Vulnerable people abandoned by a society that just doesn't care. No, they're scumbags. Annie Valentine fought back. She's a 57-year-old lady on crutches. She fought back against this guy who kept going into her local grocery store. He threatened to hit her with the bottle of the wine that he kept nicking. And so she hit back with her crutch. The police threatened her with assault. What is going wrong in this country, folks? 0344 499 1000. Annie Valentine next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Shocking story of our time, this. Annie Valentine, 57. She's going to join us in a second. Sick to death in that lovely seaside town of Blackpool where she lives. Of fly tippers, drug users, shoplifters. She tried to stand up against them. They even tried to hotwire her mobility scooter while it was parked outside her home in retaliation for her, if you like, vigilante stance. A decent, honest citizen, sick of the lawlessness all around her. In her local convenience store recently, she tackled a guy who she'd seen 3 times going into that shop to nick wine. 3 times in a day. She said, "You can stop doing that." So he tried to attack her with a bottle of wine that he'd just stolen. So she sort of hit him with her crutch. The police warned her that she faced assault charges. That is fundamentally wrong on so many levels. Let me know what you think about that, folks. 03444991000. And in the meantime, a warm welcome to the very brave Annie Valentine. Welcome to the show, Annie.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, let's cut to the chase here. First of all, you're sick of seeing all the lawlessness around you that happens all the time up there in Blackpool, and it happens all over the country. We know that. You saw this guy going into your local convenience store 3 times in a day stealing wine. On the 3rd time, you said, "Can you stop doing that?" He tries to attack you with the bottle of wine he's just stolen. You hit him with your crutch, and later the police said you could face charges of assault for that. Tell me that's not true, Annie.
I'd love to tell you it's not true, but it actually is true. There's a bit more to the story because my daughter, she's 21, and she works at the shop. And on this particular night, there were 2 young girls, and that was it. And she rung me, and she said, "Mum, this guy keeps coming in, he keeps stealing all this wine." So I said, "Right, I'll come up." So I went up there, and I got the nod that he'd just come into the shop. So these girls who were working was trying to stop him and get the wine off him. And he would get into the door and he knocked all these shelves off and everything else. So I thought, well, you're not getting through the door. So I put my crutch up like this. Thought, you're not getting through the door. Oh, no, he pushed by me. So he was going to hit me with the bottle outside. So I just cracked him with my crutch.
Yeah.
And then when the police saw the video and they wanted a statement, I was told that they couldn't have one off me because I'd hit him and I would have been done for assault.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
But the shopping question, my daughter has been, she has been on duty when somebody has come in with a knife, threatened to cut her open. And it's awful. And I've been in touch with the head office of I don't care, I'm going to name them. Head office of Tesco, because it's a one-stop shop.
So it's Tesco one-stop. Why shouldn't we name them if this is the shop?
Absolutely, yeah. There's no security on the door. I sat up there numerous times in pain and agony at night time just to make sure my daughter was safe at work. There were no police. We were promised by the Yvette Cooper, she was going to up the game with the police. Nah, we haven't got any more police. If anything, we've got less police, and there's crime all over the place. It was only a couple of days ago, I couldn't chase them off, but I told them where to go. The drug users down the side of my house. I don't want that. There's children that play along here.
So there you are, Annie, with Yvette Cooper. So she came up and you tackled her about the lawlessness that's...
we went down to London.
Oh, you went down there and she said, "Don't worry, we'll get a grip on this," but it's just got worse. How long ago was it you saw Ms. Cooper?
November last year.
And have you managed to tell her, or any of your friends managed to tell her, actually things are getting worse? Tell us about the lawlessness generally, and the fact that you're getting a reputation, good for you, as someone who wants to stand up against this lawlessness, against drug users, shoplifters, fly tippers. Tell us about these people who tried to hotwire your mobility scooter. What's that all about?
Well, I just moved into this property, not far from the other one, but I just moved into this property, and at the time there was that much rubbish down the alley. I couldn't get access to the back of the house to put my scooter in the garden. Long and short, we've got that sorted now. So it was actually chained up at the front of my house by the window, because it goes straight onto the road. Does my house? It doesn't. There's no garden at the front, and the dogs were barking and everything. Oh, and I had the cover over as well, and I went outside, and my scooter was just absolutely. They tried to hotwire it. They brought the wing mirrors off, and I thought, why? Why have you done this? And I still believe it's somebody in retaliation. I really do. And
that's terrible. That's terrible, Annie. That's terrible.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about Blackpool generally, because, of course, I mean, it still basically is Britain's favourite seaside resort, but we all know...
I'd like to say I agree with that. I really would. I mean, we put on loads of stuff. We put on the air shows, we put on the fireworks, we put on loads of stuff for people to enjoy. But, yeah, you've got a minority of people who are... No, not a minority. You've got quite a few people who are homeless.
Yeah.
They have nothing. They have no money. And they will go in and steal things from shops to try and sell them to get some cash. And yeah, it's totally wrong. But I totally understand it.
Yeah.
Because going back to the metropole here, why should we house all them that have come over on a bloody dinghy, and our homeless people, veterans and everything, are on the street?
Hang on, so the Metropole Hotel in Blackpool is now an asylum seekers hotel, right?
Oh, it has been for a while, yeah. Oh, there's loads of them. There's loads. You'll see food going in there on trolley. Oh, my days, honestly. Fresh fruit, fresh veg, everything, every single day.
The Metropole, remind me, the Metropole is the big sort of formerly flash one on the front, yeah.
Yeah,
so, where I used to stay when I went up there for party conferences and things like that, right?
Near our cenotaph. Where
and now that's an asylum seekers hotel.
Yes, yes. And then they find it okay to like disposable barbecues on our cenotaph. And nothing is done. Nothing at all is done.
They cook food on the cenotaph?
In the disposable barbecues, yes.
Unbelievable. And do you sense, I mean, we're talking about the lawlessness. I mean, it's well known that, you know, Blackpool, sadly, has been gripped by a sense of decline for some time.
It is, yeah.
But do you sense, do you feel that the crime rate has gone up since all your hotels were turned into migrants?
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's already been reported that in the Metropole they've found, they found, I'm trying to think of the word, evidence of child abuse, videos, pornography, and we need to keep our children safe, and the government are doing this, and we can't. And it's not just the immigrants; it's the crime, and it's everything that needs to be sorted and should have been sorted and hasn't been sorted, and I don't think will get sorted, because with the two-tier system. I mean, Steer Karma, honestly, he needs to get his head out of his arse.
Steer Karma, I like that name. Listen, let's just quickly go back. Great to talk to you, Annie. And by the way, keep up the good work. Seriously, you're a hero. But just go back to your daughter working at Tesco One Stop. So she, you know, decent girl, goes into work. She's terrified for her safety every time she goes to work, from what you're saying.
Daytime, it's not so bad. It's a night time.
Yeah.
But sometimes, because there'll be two staff on over night time. My daughter might be step up for that night. That means managerial, emptying the ATM machine, and everything like that. Such a responsibility for a young girl.
Yeah.
And then if there's another female colleague on, they're the same age. You know, she feels safer when a male colleague is with her, because he's a lot older.
Yeah.
And she just feels safer. But she should be able to go to work and feel safe and not feel threatened.
Yeah. It's sort of basic It's basic, isn't it? You know, going to do your job and feeling safe. And you should be able to feel safe as well, Annie. And if the police come for you and try to charge you with assault, you let me know. Let me know, and we will scream from the rooftops. Unbelievable. Fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much. Amazing story. Annie Valentine, resident of Blackpool, fighting back against the lawlessness that's gripping Britain's favourite seaside resort. We all know the story, but the streets there now littered with asylum seekers, with drug takers, with homeless people, and so on and so forth. And she takes a stand against a guy who keeps going into Tesco One Stop to steal wine 3 times in a day. She goes down to help her daughter, hits him with a crutch, good for her, and the police threaten her with charges of assault. I think there you have a snapshot of exactly where this country is going wrong. And by the way, exactly where the police are going wrong. We're going to do a story later on in the show about the fact that confidence in British policing among the people of this country has absolutely plummeted. And we're going to cite one reason, a particular story. Can you believe this? A copper, a serving copper, right, goes to a house where a lady is under suspicion for some kind of crime that actually dissolved. She was never charged with anything, but it required a police search of her home. This guy, the copper, gets caught stealing her underwear. That's a copper, a serving copper. He was caught on film. He subsequently quit. He's not a copper anymore. Where's the sort of selection process? Low life like that gets chosen to be a copper. Can you believe that? No wonder confidence is plummeting. We'll talk about that later, but after this break, we're going to talk about the BBC and another row. Do you remember that guy, the Thought for the Day lefty refugee lover who accused last week Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, of being a xenophobe? BBC had to shut it down, take it off iPlayer and all that, and apologise. He's got form. He's got form. He basically called Sweeney, the actress, Sarah Sweeney, the actress, he sort of aligned her with Nazis. The BBC should have done some research about him, and we will talk about that next, so stay tuned.
Those on the front lines feel that they have to avenge their fallen brothers. There's no scenario where they see themselves giving up areas like the Donbass. But then everyday Ukrainians feel that they want this war to be over. They've fought too hard for too long, lost properties, lost loved ones, and they may be open. I spoke to some people in the streets the other day who said maybe there could be some sort of national referendum. But either way, they all agreed it needed to be a decision made among Ukraine.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the BBC. Let's go straight over to my next guest, Campaign Director at Defund the BBC, Rebecca Ryan. Rebecca, morning.
Morning, Kevin.
How you doing? Now, we know about this guy who presented the Thought for the Day a week or so ago for Radio 4. He made the allegation in his learned religious address for the Radio 4 Today programme that Robert Jenrick, because he was worried about his 3 daughters whose safety is kind of threatened by this invasion of more and more asylum seekers, many of whom are accused, or some of whom are accused of sex crimes. He said that in that respect, Robert Jenrick was a xenophobe. Robert Jenrick said, well, you accuse me of racism here. The BBC had to can the whole thing, get it down from BBC Sounds, apologise and move on. They did all that. Well, it turns out that this guy's got form, that Sydney Sweeney, the actress, the question here is, that the BBC should have done research on this guy. A cursory look at his Twitter feed, his social media feed. He accused Sydney Sweeney, because she appeared in that advert, of backing the eugenics movement, which is allied to the Nazis. So he basically accused her of being a Nazi sympathiser on Twitter. So he's got big form here. The BBC didn't even check that clearly. Sydney Sweeney, I would imagine, has got a bit of a case against the BBC as well for allowing this guy on. But, you know, why don't they check these guests? This is not just a guest. This is a guy who was commissioned to do Thought for the Day, which, by the way, the BBC should get rid of. It's a ludicrously old-fashioned anachronism that no one wants to hear. You know, when it's the Today programme, which sometimes I made the mistake of listening to, and it goes, time now for Thought for the Day. Go, right, I'm going to make some coffee, going to have some cereal, you know. Nobody listens to it. But anyway, why don't they check?
I mean, we know that they do checks anyway, because they certainly wouldn't let myself on or you on probably to give our thought for the day. I can imagine that would be instantly blocked by the big people at the BBC. Thing is, they just give certain people a pass, don't they? If they've got that sort of metropolitan elite liberal dinner party mindset, then they just don't care to look any further. And the BBC is just more and more out of touch with the British people. On this subject particularly, I mean, we can see that there is a real sort of change in the country, and people are reaching a sort of point of despair, and the BBC is completely out of touch with it. So, you know, of course, they should be looking at everybody that they get on to talk about this, because they need to be representing all parts of the UK. They're obliged to do that in order to charge us for the licence fee, to represent all parts of the UK and deliver journalistic excellence. But they're not. They're just pushing. It's a campaign organisation. They just push their agenda. And as long as they have guests that push their agenda on, then they're more than happy until anybody makes a fuss, like Robert Jenrick. Obviously, rightly, they're complaining about being called a xenophobe, and then they have to sort of scuttle around and try and sort of tidy up the mess. It's just how they operate.
Yeah, so this guy is called Dr. Krish Kandia. When he did his Robert Jenrick Thought for the Day, he said, well, what Jenrick is doing, when he talks about his fear for his daughter, is fueling the fear of strangers, and the technical term for that is xenophobia. And Robert Jenrick said, no, it isn't. And the BBC had to say, actually, you're right, it isn't, is it? You're not a xenophobe, Mr. Jenrick. Very sorry, we'll take all this down. They didn't mention, by the way, that Dr. Krish Kandia, before he presented Thought for the Day, was the founder of a refugee charity. And you know that Sydney Sweeney was in this advert for jeans, which some people said was, controversial, and that somehow it sort of fostered a feeling of white supremacy. I'm not quite sure where they were coming from. But what Dr. Kandia posted about Sydney Sweeney was that she was backing Nazi ideologies of racial superiority. If I was her, I'd sue him. But that was there. That was on Twitter. Now, that is an incredibly intemperate thing to post. And the BBC should just go through his social media. They should do this with all guests. Have a quick look, have a little research about them before you let them on. But this was more than a guest. This was the presenter of Thought for the Day. And for saying that Sydney Sweeney was backing Nazi ideologies of racial superiority, he should have been out, gone. But the BBC don't seem to do these basic checks.
Absolutely, they don't. And it's an extremist ideology that he is reflecting there. And by sort of trying to essentially damage her career, have her cancelled for daring to be in this advert, where they've got a little play on the word gene.
Yeah. Well, let's just quickly say what that is, Rebecca. It's American Eagle jeans. Sydney Sweeney, of course, star of White Lotus. In this advert, she's wearing these jeans. She says, genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair, colour, personality, and even eye colour. My jeans are blue. That's it. Then the narrator says, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Well, if you want to say that is backing Nazi eugenics ideology, then you are mad. You are an extremist. You are not to be encouraged. You should not be on the BBC, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think the BBC was completely wrong for having him on and for not doing that research, because, the problem with the BBC is it's stirring up this really divisive atmosphere in the UK, and it's not reflecting and being even-handed, and it's making matters even worse. And with having someone who has that reaction, it should have straight away been sort of like, we don't want to hear from him, because clearly he's going to stoke the fires. He's basically a race baiter, and that's what he's doing on Twitter. And the BBC needs to step away from that and not have, not encourage that kind of divisive communication.
Absolutely. Just this is what he posted on X, on Twitter. Why, on the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War, would you be flirting with a eugenics idea? 80 years ago, there was another mass movement in the world claiming the same. That was Nazism. We don't need superstars backing the eugenics movement. What a ridiculous thing to say. And the BBC said, let's get this guy on. Unbelievable. Now, by the way, if I was Sydney Sweeney, I'd be talking to my lawyers. Have a word with Dr. Candia, eh? One last quick point before you go, Rebecca. I spoke to Jake Wallace-Simons there, the Jewish columnist and author, yesterday, about the fact that Gary Lineker has been nominated for a national TV award as potentially the best presenter. A great honour, a prestigious award. Everybody seems to have forgotten this guy was sacked in shame from the BBC in an anti-Semitism scandal, wasn't he?
Exactly, yes. He was finally forced out of his role for pushing it too far. And there's absolutely no way he should be winning awards. It's just an outrage, and it's, deeply concerning for the Jewish community of Great Britain for the fact that what he has done could potentially be given this award and this accolade.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. Everybody's forgotten how this guy left the BBC. He left it under an anti-Semitic cloud, accused of serious anti-Semitism himself. He denies it, but I'll let the great British public make up their mind about this, and I hope he doesn't win that award, because he doesn't deserve it. Rebecca, as always, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Rebecca Ryan there, campaign director of the Defund the BBC organisation. When we come back, there is lots still to come, so you better stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the final hour of the mid-morning show. Well, I guess it's the early afternoon show now. 60 sizzling minutes still to go. You won't believe who I'm handing over to at 1 o'clock. It's not Ian Collins. He's on another well-deserved day off. We're going to... No, Philip Ingram is going to... I think it's his debut as a host, so we look forward to that. So Philip will be in later to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment until 4 o'clock. In a little while, we're going to be talking about the plummeting confidence in the police of the British people. Not really surprising when you hear that a copper has just been done from stealing a woman's underwear while searching her house. Good, isn't it? By the way, she was not charged with anything. He was stealing her underwear. What kind of people are they employing in the police force these days? Unbelievable. We'll also take your calls in about half an hour. 03444991000. Got some amazing messages, support for the brilliant Annie Valentine, the Blackpool lady that tried to stop a shoplifter with her crutch, and the police said, right, we're going to charge you with assault. They didn't in the end. They better not either. But there you are, a window into the warped values that seem to have infested our police forces around the country. But lots of messages, I'll read them out a bit later. And then towards the end of the show, we'll talk to Graham Linehan, the brilliant author, writer of Father Ted and other comedies. He's going to talk out about J.K. Rowling's a contention that the arts are being taken over, being pandered to in terms of the gender, what she calls the gender Taliban. The gender Taliban are controlling British arts. We'll talk to Graham about that later. Maybe ask him how he's faring these days. He went through a very torrid time with the trans lobby. They made him public enemy number one. They tried to wreck his career. So we'll ask him about that as well. So lots still to come before I hand over to Philip Ingram. But in the meantime, for the first 20 minutes or so of this excellent hour, very pleased to welcome to the show former Tory party leader Sir Ian Duncan Smith. Welcome, Ian.
Oh, good. I was going to say good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah, we always get this wrong just as we go past the midday hour. Well, first of all, let me ask you for your take on what I think is a sort of triumph for the people, the victory over the government of Epping Forest District Council in their bid to have the Bell Hotel, their asylum seeker hotel, closed down because they said it was a danger to local people. The nature of the victory was this, that the government has basically been going round quietly commandeering hotels all over the country, surrounding them with steel barriers, blacking out the windows, putting security guards down around them, filling them with migrants, with people who broke into our country illegally, and still calling them hotels. The court said, well, they're no longer hotels. That has thrown the government into disarray and will no doubt trigger some kind of chain reaction of other councils taking similar legal action against the government. I think that's a good thing. What are your thoughts?
No, well, I agree. I think the Epping Council did us all a favour, really, by going back to law and saying you can't call these places hotels. And if they're not hotels, then they are migrant camps. And if they're migrant camps, then they need new rules because they're not at all protected. The public are not protected against possibility. You saw in this particular case, there was a 14-year-old girl that had been assaulted, or supposed to have been assaulted by somebody who was in the hotel. And they're far too close in to normal communities, which means they can pose a threat to them. And I can understand why Epping's gone to say, wrong place, the wrong time, and the wrong people.
Well, the Home Office, the government, was represented by Edward Brown, KC, eminent barrister. Obviously, he's doing his job. I don't hold this against him personally, but his arguments, I thought, were a disgrace. They were a disgrace. What he said was that, you know, the balance of convenience, in other words, he classified the desires of the people of Epping for safety on the streets for women and children as a convenience were nowhere near as important as the government's fundamental duty to the human rights of asylum seekers. I think that betrays a government that has got its priorities all wrong, don't you?
Sort of says it all, doesn't it, really? It thinks that a migrant that's arrived here illegally and is yet to be processed has a higher number of rights than the people who are officially resident and legally here, and their families, for that matter. That wasn't the beginning and the end of it. Actually, I think the judge was highly critical of the behaviour of the Home Office, said they were uncooperative, and that they set about dismissing this charge, really, which it's the judge's decision. This is not Home Office's, and they didn't help, and they didn't make a reasonable response to it. And what you see with the case put forward by the KC was an arrogant dismissal of the whole proposition, which makes you wonder, really, who is the Home Office for? Because they're clearly not for the British public, who sit there and have to put up with this.
I thought the other outrageous nature of the government's... you can't call it a legal argument. It wasn't a legal argument. It was a sort of emotional argument in favour of these foreigners who break into our country illegally and their human rights. But his other argument was that, oh, well, if you let Epping Forest District Council get away with this, it will add up to a triumph for violent protests and will trigger more violent protests around the country. Now, here's the deal, Ian. For the last something like a couple of months, we've had many protests every weekend, and yes, some of them have been passionate, yes, some of them have been heated. There have been one or two flashpoints, often triggered by mask-wearing left-wingers and indeed right-wingers who converge on these scenes just for their own political reasons. But basically, you know, I know, everybody knows that these protests around the country outside asylum seeker hotels have been peaceful, and yet the government is characterising them as violent, and that this decision by the High Court is a victory for violent protests. They were not violent.
No, they weren't, and the vast majority have been very peaceful. They've been by local residents, not by people who come into the area. That was characterised, the Epping protests. They were not violent. They were very much about local people concerned about the safety and security of their children and of their loved ones. And so the reality is that this was a classic case of what English common law is meant to be all about, which is about people having a right to pursue their lives as they will without let or hindrance. And this is very much a case. So the government is now trying to bully the courts, which makes you laugh, really, because this was a group that used to lecture the Conservative government about not holding up the courts to high levels and not extolling their virtues whenever they make a judgment you disagree with. Here is a bunch of people that literally look like overpaid human rights lawyers themselves, who actually end up now having to criticise the court because they didn't agree with their judgment. So, you know, you couldn't make this up half the time. But the reality is most of these protests have been peaceful. And if the government is trying to say that they're all violent and nasty, then the government is stirring up trouble, because people will not like the fact that they've been mischaracterised as angry and furious and dangerous people when they are not. They are just local people, for the most part, protesting against something they think is wrong, and that is their right within the English common law.
Absolutely. Bear with us, if you will, Ian. I'm going to play now a clip from the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, who was on the Today programme this morning, putting the government's case. I'm not exactly sure what he's on about, but see if you can work it out.
Could you at least answer just so specifically, if it's not hotels, as Security Minister, what is it?
So for reasons that I completely understand, you're focusing on one particular bit of this problem, and I'm evidencing the activity right across the sort of the spectrum of the challenge in terms of the leveraging diplomatic relations with our partners internationally and stopping the flow of people getting to the northern beaches of France in the first place, which is my primary area of concern.
Well, I think that's just gobbledygook. If we can just talk for a second on the government's alleged bid to tackle the migrant crisis. We're now 2 weeks into one in, one out, which is supposed to be a deterrent. That's Macron and Starmer's bizarre swap a foreigner deal. Since then, something like 2,500 migrants across the Channel. So the deterrent clearly has not worked, is not working. So far, the mathematics is this. It's 2,500 in, none out. So that's not working. We've got the hotel policy in disarray. The smash the gangs seems to have died a tragic death. They're not saying that anymore. This is out of control, and the government seems to have no way or no method of tackling what is an escalating crisis.
Well, number one, you need a deterrent. People are paying. There's a sort of mystique about the idea of these people clambering on boats because it's nice people giving them the boats and they sail across the channel and risk their lives. That's not the case. To get on these boats, they've had to pay thousands of pounds of all their savings gone to get on a boat, risk their lives to get across. Why? Because they believe if they set foot in the UK, they will never have to leave. And they're probably right about that, as things stand at the moment. So the government comes in without any policy at all. They're having voted against the Rwanda scheme, which, by the way, was a deterrent. Even when it was first announced, you suddenly saw waves of these illegal migrants heading for Ireland, camped out in the streets of Dublin. I don't know if you remember all of that. That was because they feared being sent to Rwanda. Of course, when that collapsed under the judgments and the rows about it, it should have been taking place. But the only deterrent we had was you're going somewhere else. Now, without a deterrent, it doesn't matter what this government does, they will not reduce the numbers of migrants. Because if you're going to pay thousands of pounds to risk your life, then you are going to take an awful lot until you are deterred. And the only deterrence at work is to say, if you set foot here, you will be turned around and you will be sent somewhere else. And you'll have wasted your money, wasted your time, risked your children, risked yourself for nothing because you won't be allowed to stay here. Their nonsense about smashing the gangs. What do you think? Government after government has tried to smash the gangs. As soon as you get one gang out of the way, another one pops up because there's such a lot of money involved in it. And the second bit about one out, one in is total rubbish because it's not one out, one in. It'll be one out, about 15 in because, of course, if they're allowed in legally, they can bring their families with them. So suddenly this whole one-on-one is complete rubbish. And by the way, the stuff that some of my colleagues in the Conservative Party in the shadow cabinet did about filming, Robert Jenrick and co, filming the migrants on their way to the beaches, not being stopped by the police not interested when they were spotted where they were going and informed, all of that is a reality. So all this chucking money at the French police and the French government makes them laugh, really, because they don't mind if these people head off to England.
Of course they don't. They want to wave them.
Stick around in the part of Calais.
Yeah, they want to wave them au revoir and don't come back.
It's a disaster. The whole thing's a disaster.
Exactly right. And I wish, Ian, that the Labour government or Labour cabinet ministers could be prevailed upon to stop lying to the public. Every time they're asked about the Prime Minister's ludicrously juvenile and impetuous decision on day one of his disastrous administration to chuck the Rwanda scheme down the drain, wasting £700 million worth of taxpayers' investment, they say, well, it didn't work. Well, here's the deal. It didn't start. It didn't start. They must stop lying to us about this.
Well, the other thing, by the way, is America's using the Rwanda scheme now. Because they've sent illegal migrants over to Rwanda. Countries in Europe, by the way, are talking about can they now do something like the Rwanda scheme. We are the only country that's in retreat over this. Others are fed up as well, by the way, with the Convention of Human Rights. The Italians are fed up with the French have already criticised it. And yet you try and criticise that problem with courts ruling. I mean, you saw the other day an individual who's, been a criminal was allowed to stay here because of his human rights. It's ridiculous.
Every single time. Can I get a few words from you before you go, Sir Ian? It's always great to have you on board. Thank you so much for your time. A few words on the Ukraine situation. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, who I should I should say, should be commended and applauded for what he's achieved in at least moving the dial, getting Putin vaguely to the table, talking to the European leaders, etc., and Zelensky. He is now saying that, look, should some kind of agreement be reached with Putin to end hostilities, I think that's a long shot personally, but that's another issue. But he says, should some kind of agreement be reached, there will have to be a peacekeeping force in Ukraine. America will give every support it can to that, except for boots on the ground. But he also said, but that may involve European boots on the ground, including British boots on the ground. Very generous of him, I thought. But what do you think of that? Do you think it is possible British soldiers will end up in Ukraine keeping the peace?
Well, I suppose if the government says that they are prepared to take part in this so-called coalition of the willing, I suppose that might be the case. My concern would be, I don't trust Putin one little bit. It isn't that he just wants this bit of land. Putin has never accepted that Ukraine is an independent state. He's never accepted that Zelensky was elected properly, and he wants Ukraine. He's made that absolutely clear from day one. This is only a staging post. If there was a peace, so-called peace agreement, and he kept territory, which I think is an abomination when you think that he invaded.
Yes, agreed.
If he did that, he'll come back for more. I mean, Hitler did that. He does that. All the dictators of history never give up because they believe they're right, and they will do whatever it takes. They don't care about human life. There's 1 million people that have been killed or injured as a result of his invasion on the Russian side alone, and something like 300,000 to 400,000 killed or wounded on the Ukrainian side because he decided to go to war with them. That is the kind of bloke you're dealing with. So all I would say is be very careful to the government about what you commit to at the moment, because there will be big caveats in all of this. And if we put 5,000 or 10,000 troops on the ground, it is like a drop of rain in the scale of the war that they've got at the moment. I've been out there. I've been at the front line. I've been in Kharkiv, which was bombed the other day. I can tell you now, the Ukrainians are unbelievably brave, very stoic, and they get on with it. But what they don't want is our boots on the ground. What they do want is absolutely to have the weapons to fight this war and to drive the Russians out. And I have to tell you, they could, if they'd been properly given the weapons, have dealt with that by now.
I mean, we all pray for peace. We'd love that war to end. But do you share, and I'm sorry to say this, but do you share my pessimism that Putin may well, or is probably likely, to sort of swing a wrecking ball through all of these talks by probably saying, I want the Donbass, I want Crimea, and I want a lot more of Ukraine as well, at which point the Ukrainian people will just say no.
I think it's almost certain that if he goes on asking for territory like that, which is basically territory he hasn't yet invaded, by the way, a third of the area of Luhansk is actually still held by the Ukrainians, and some very, very critical cities that act as a protection buffer against further advances of the Russians. If that's given away, it'll be like giving away the Sudetenland in 1938 to the Germans, because people forget this. They say, oh, well, you know, I said there were 1 million men under arms in Czechoslovakia, and that area was mountainous, full of forts, full of fortifications. The Germans were really scared stiff of trying to invade that. We gave it to them. And so they came back for more. They took Czechoslovakia within 6 months, I think, 7 months of their time, and then they moved on to Poland. This is what he does. Putin will do the same. Our only answer is we have to defeat him. He's a threat and a danger to us all. He's allied with China, North Korea, and Iran. We are up against it, but we won't recognise it, and we're playing games at the moment.
Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, so thank you so much for your time. Great to talk to you. Thank you. Ian Duncan-Smith, their former Tory leader, let me know about some of the things he was saying. I mean, agreeing with me about the asylum seeker hotel situation. Absolute disgrace. That was the government's argument. It wasn't a legal argument. It was, the human rights of asylum seekers are the fundamental, most important thing of this government. No. The most important thing to this government, any government of Britain, should be British citizens. And yet, Edward Brown, KC, let it be known that the government sees its sacred duty first to the human rights of migrants who break into this country illegally. They also outrageously claimed that people all over the country were staging violent protests against their asylum seeker hotels, their local asylum seeker hotels. That's a lie. These protests have not been violent. So you get the sense, don't you, that what Keir Starmer and the Cabinet almost want, I wouldn't accuse them of really desiring this, but I think they wouldn't mind if one of these protests got really violent. Loads of arrests, bricks being thrown, all that kind of stuff. So they could revert to their default setting of calling decent, honest citizens who just want safety on their streets far-right thugs. That's what I think they want. To say that these protests have been violent, it's not true, and it's a disgrace. Their entire argument in the High Court yesterday, I'm not having a go at Edward Brown KC, he's a barrister, he was fighting for the Home Office, he was doing his job, but his arguments were an outrage, an absolute outrage. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. We're taking your calls in just a little while, but first up, after this break, Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, will be in the studio talking about the plummeting confidence that British people have in our useless police forces. They are useless, aren't they? 03444991000. That next. Stay tuned.
Inflation's been creeping up now for a few months, and what's driving this, Mike, is it's pretty much food inflation is continuing to go up, so that's it, 4.9%, and this is not the direction that we want things to be going. And what we've seen, Mike, they were talking last week, Rachel Reeves, about the economy and comparing ourselves to some of the other nations, so let's do that with the inflation figures. France, 0.9%, Germany, 1.8%, so two of the big powerhouses of Europe, they're below that Bank of England target. So the government needs to look now, what are they doing wrong because inflation's so high?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In the studio, it is former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, hello, Kevin.
Right, well, in a little while, we need to talk about this plummeting confidence that British people, quite rightly in my view, have in our police forces, which before the break I described as useless. Off air, I've got another name for them, but useless we'll have to work with for the time being. Absolutely hopeless. Their priorities all wrong. Visiting shopkeepers who call shoplifters scumbags and saying, right, you could cause offence. So what? What's that got to do with you? That's not against the law. Anyway, a horrified mother has talked of her trauma. We'll get to the plummeting confidence in the police in just a second. But here's a story that contributes largely to this malaise. We know lots of stories, not quite as bad as this one, but this one takes your breath away. It's jaw-dropping, right? There's a copper, right, in Hertfordshire, no longer a copper, a bloke called Marcin Zielinski, 27. He was called to the house of Lee Ann Sullivan, local resident. For some reason, the police had reason to search her property. No charges were ever brought against her. It was a no-no, nothing. But they did have occasion to search her property. Officer Marcin Zielinski was caught on camera rifling through her underwear drawer and stealing a pair of her knickers. That's a copper. I mean, Mike, what? I mean, he's since been. He admitted one charge of theft and a charge of corrupt and improper exercise of police powers.
Yeah.
You could say that again.
Call it what you will,
He
yeah.
was jailed for 4 months on Monday and has, of course, left the force. But I mean, come on, what a copper! How did he get through the selection process?
Well, firstly, I think we've spoken about vetting before. You know, when it used to be a good sergeant coming to your house and seeing you and your family, that was a good thing. That's what I had when I was a soldier in Northern Ireland. An IUC sergeant came to see me at the barracks. Now it's all done online, and you just don't get the feel for people as you would do. There's not as good as supervision as when I joined, an old-fashioned sergeant reporting on you and getting a grip. But the tragedy of this is that we know from burglaries how much it really impacts on women because their personal possessions have been rifled through, particularly underwear drawers and this sort of thing. But the idea, it's not a burglar, it's a police officer. It's absolutely disgusting, and it would just add to this collapse in trust and confidence in policing.
And Leanne Sullivan has talked of her trauma. She can't believe that this happened. She said that although this excuse for an officer's imprisonment, jailing, has led to some kind of closure, she said, I think I've cried, I've laughed, I've been angry, I feel vulnerable, I feel scared, I just think I feel sick about the whole situation. She's a mother of 2. I'm constantly thinking, what did he want them for? Talking about her knickers. Why did he take them? What's he going to do with them? How many more people has he done this to? You've got to sympathise with that poor lady. Unbelievable. Which brings us on to this crime survey, big survey revealing that faith in the police has crumbled to an historic low. Just 49% of people interviewed in the crime survey for England and Wales described their local police as doing a good or excellent job. That's up until the year March this year. Mike, there's a story we did earlier. We spoke to a great lady called Annie Valentine. This again plays into where the police are all going wrong. Visiting a shopkeeper, so you can't call them scumbags, that could be offensive. Who cares? None of your business whether or not that shopkeeper wants to be offensive. Anyway, this is Annie Valentine. She's 57 years old. She's disabled. Her daughter works in a Tesco one-stop. Phoned her mum and said, every day all these people come in shoplifting, they threaten me and everything. So there was one guy went in there time and time again through the day, stole a bottle of wine, went back in, stole another bottle of wine. And the third time, Annie went down to look after her daughter. She went across the door and said, you're not going out with this bottle of wine. So he tried to attack her with the bottle he was stealing. She hit him with her crutch. He got away, of course. And the police warned her that she faced assault charges. That's at the centre, the epicentre of this lack of faith in the police.
It is absolutely. And what you've got as well is that if you look to that survey as well, it says that 95% of victims are satisfied if the police catch the criminal, surprisingly enough. And what the police have done over the last decade, they've forgot all about that. And what you have, if you look at the British Transport, the police at the moment, they're heralding, we're recruiting more part-time officers who take longer to train and more. We need more women and we need more. And they focus all their time on that sort of thing rather than how do we detect more crime? So you've got a head of British Transport Police who's on a head of the diversity department on £90,000 a year. What would the public want? The public would rather have that money spent on police officers who catch criminals. The public are not interested if the officer is white or black or gay or straight or male or female. They're simply interested in getting a good service. And at the moment, the public can see 1% of theft solved, 5% of burglary solved. It's utterly rubbish. And the result of this is that what was seen as the greatest police force in the world, with Scotland Yard seen as the greatest crime-fighting organisation in the world, has collapsed. And it's absolutely scandalous. And the public are right to be really concerned about this.
Let's go back to this recruitment issue. By what standards are people being recruited to the police force if you have a lowlife who goes around stealing people's underwear?
Too often people are judged by what they look like and if they fit a certain criteria, rather than is this the best and most decent person to help keep communities safe. And until we get back to that, these incidents are going to continue. But I was told 2 decades ago, if we have more black officers, we have more gay officers, the trust and confidence in police will increase. Why has it then? And all these senior officers have been promoted on that. They've not been promoted on catching criminals. They're promoted on this basis. And the result is, after all this time, people are they just don't trust the police at all. And they're only reporting crimes if they've got an insurance policy. They don't report them because they think the police might catch somebody. They just want a reference number so they can get, the money for their TV back or whatever's been stolen.
What are these chief constables thinking? For example, the chief constable of Essex, who seems to spend a lot of time sending his officers out to knock on the doors of people who may or may not have posted something troubling on Twitter a year ago, who is such a massive fan of the ludicrous non-crime hate incidents. I mean, police for a kick-off, if they want to begin to restore the faith that has been lost, how about you stop non-crime hate incidents so that we, the people of this country, could know that the coppers aren't recording details of our lives because they think maybe we're wrong-uns, that we got the wrong kind of attitude. That's not right.
Well, it'd be easy to solve a lot of things in the police because they could go on about they haven't got enough money. Well, disband every diversity unit, put all the money into a crime fighter unit. Disband anybody who's dealing with non-crime hate incidents. They disband as well. They will focus on burglary, robbery, theft, rape, and all the other crimes that affect everybody else. Get rid of anybody whose purpose is not the prevention and detection of crime. Get back to basics. But at the moment, too many people, what you have is senior officers will always say we must have diversity. What there isn't is any diversity of thought. They all believe the same thing. They're all playing from the same script. And until we get new blood in there, until we get people who think differently, who say, and I've always said this, if every chief constable and commissioner had to write a list of how many thieves they'd personally arrested when they were young PCs and pin it on their door, there'd be a lot of people who'd be shamefaced.
Exactly. You used to arrest about 10 a day, didn't you?
Well, my record was 4, I think. Four's not bad. Four's not bad. They're right, different crimes.
I'll grant you that.
And different, not 4 villains altogether, 4 different crimes.
Yeah, no,
four different crimes.
Yeah, I mean, these chief constables, who are not much more than kind of paramilitary social workers or something, they always go on about community relations. Community relations are so important. I'll tell you how you can get good community relations. Solve a few crimes. Go round to people's houses when they get burgled or they get their car nicked. That will be good community relations. Don't they? I mean, Sir Mark Rowley, the chief constable of the Met Police here in London, he recently, it was only about a week ago, he described London, he thinks he's doing a great job because he described London as one of the safest cities in the world. Well, I live here. I wouldn't say it is.
And also, what they do, we're having consultation. It's lazy consultation. So they'll hold a meeting, and who goes there? The loudmouth, alleged community leaders. They never listen to the silent majority. They never ask what they want. And so while the silent majority will say, we want more stop and search, we want more criminals locked up, we want to feel safe in our homes, they don't listen to them. They'll go to people who tell them again what they want to hear, that the police are racist, that we need more diversity, and anybody who doesn't tell them that is ignored.
Yeah, isn't it just this? This is what cops should be. I'd like to see more of them on the streets. I'd like to see more squad cars, to be honest with you. You don't see coppers very much, and they always go, oh, that's because we haven't got enough police officers. There's been so many cutbacks. Well, here's a fact. 1 in every 4 coppers, 25%, all around the country, never ever leave the nick, never leave the police station. Well, get them away from their paperwork that you think's so important. Put them on the streets.
Absolutely. I mean, a friend of mine who's he's retired but works for the police, he says he's got young officers who are joining whose determination is to find an office job. So they're not looking for the right people. I mean, but out there right now, there are good officers who are facing danger, trying to do their best, but they're badly led by people who just want to select their own kind. That's where you end up. You've ended up where it used to be like a lot of ex-army blokes run by ex-army blokes. No, it's a load of students loosely led by older ex-students.
Students, exactly right. Listen, folks, so we're going to go to break now. Listen to Mike, or you just listen to him. Let me know what you think. Do you have faith in the police force, or are you like pretty much half of the people in this country who have lost all faith? I listened to Annie Valentine's story, lady who tried to stop a shoplifter with her crutch and was threatened with being charged with assault. I listened to the story of the shopkeeper in Wrexham who put up a sign saying scumbag shoplifters and was warned by the police that was offensive. And I start thinking, I can understand why people in this country have lost all faith. I'm going to say it again, in our absolutely useless police forces. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to Mike. We'll be back after these messages. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Going to take your calls in just a little while. Got a great... You remember Annie Valentine, that amazing woman who came on earlier, 57 years old, disabled, tried to tackle a shoplifter with her crutch. Cop said you're going to get charged with assault. They haven't yet, and they better not. Blackpool Police, you are on watch. You better not charge her, otherwise there's going to be hell to pay. Why did you even threaten it? What's wrong with you? Woman with a crutch. God's sake. Right, this is from Gordon. He's a retired police officer in Slough. Your guest, Annie Valentine from Blackpool, should formally complain against the police. It sounds as though she was seeking to assist in the lawful prevention of crime and the apprehension of an offender, and was acting in self-defence and maybe took justified and reasonable preemptive action when doing so. Whenever the police officers were involved, whoever the police officers were involved, they need to be made to revisit this case, actually learn and apply the law and act in the public interest. Disgraceful. It was disgraceful and not in the public interest, Gordon. Very, very good point. Here's another one from Annie. This is from Stephen in Belfast. What a modern day heroine. And the police should be ashamed leaving such a woman so vulnerable. And another one. A lot of messages of support for Annie. She was a great woman, wasn't she? This is Davey. Read the police in Blackpool. Kevin, watching your programme, absolutely disgusted about the police's attitude to the disabled lady. All I can say is I'm looking forward to the riots kicking off. We're not looking forward to riots kicking off, Davey. I'd like to see dead coppers on the streets. We don't want to see that either. I liked the first bit of your message, Davey, but you went a bit over the top. What we want, peaceful protest, and we want the police to get their priorities right. Right, let's go to the phones. First of all, let's talk to Robert in Hertfordshire, who wants to talk about flags. Hello, Robert.
Hi, Kev. First time I've actually spoke to you. I spoke to several presenters, but you are my wife's favourite presenter.
There you go. There you go. Why didn't she ring? No.
Yeah, well, she's not as mouthy as me.
Well, give her my best. What would you like to say, Robert?
Yeah, what I'd like to say is it's my right as a British citizen to be patriotic if I want to be. And the fact that in Birmingham they took the Union Jacks down and left the Palestinian flags up, surely that's racist.
That's an interesting point. I mean, it's certainly prioritising a foreign flag. I mean, it's not even a national flag. In actual fact, putting up flags just willy-nilly is against British law. So the Palestinian flag's not an official flag. So there's an argument that hanging that flag all over the country is illegal, but that's probably a little bit pedantic. But it's definitely the case that certainly in Birmingham and in Tower Hamlets here in London, in the east of London, they are prioritising the Palestinian flag over the Union Jack and St George's Cross flags. That strikes me, Robert, as being all wrong.
Well, my cousin Tony, she organised the demonstration at the Thistle Barbican Hotel. She was the main organiser. And since then, that's the old manor where I come from.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not really the Barbican. It's
South Islington, isn't it? I used to live around there myself. I know where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely area actually, surrounded by social housing. Anyway, a little while later, the residents started to put Union Jacks on the lampposts. Now, within minutes, the Islington Council came round and cleared the flag.
Oh, so they're at it as well, are they? Another council. What's the matter with these people?
Well, Islington, are you surprised? You know?
No. I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is as well, we've got a friend who's had an old carpet outside her front door. She's been onto the council for the last couple of months to come and clear it, and they haven't bothered. However, they can rush round and take flags off of the lampposts.
Yeah, I know. You know the joke going around today, Robert, because some patriots, you know those white roundabouts they paint onto the road at crossroads. Some patriots have been painting red crosses on them, so the St George's, and the councils have arrived, seconds flat to get rid of that. And the big joke today is if you've got potholes all around your local area, paint them in the colours of the St George's flag, and the council will come down round and repair them almost instantly. If you don't, they won't bother.
Well, Patrick, I watched GB News as well, and Patrick Christie.
No, I've never heard of either of those. I don't know who they are.
Well, they're not really the enemy. I mean, you're a talk channel.
Oh, they're the enemy, all right, mate. Don't you worry about that.
But he had,
I know Patrick. He's an old friend of mine, but go on.
Yeah, he had Union Jack behind him, and they're actually giving Union Jacks away. I sent away last night on Amazon for lapel pins. I'm going to wear one. Now, I'm not that type of person, although I did have a Ukrainian one when the war first started.
I hope you're not wearing it anymore.
Well, I think, sometimes they always say, there's an old saying, that something good always comes out of something bad. And I feel that there is a surge now of patriotism.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right, Robert. That's exactly what's going on, that people have had enough of this. All around the country, it's shocking news to local councils, to lefty councillors. All around the country, people are proud of their country, this country. They're proud of their flag, and English people are proud of the St George's Cross flag. So people are putting these flags up defiantly, and I hope they carry on. The Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said that he supports people doing this. So let's all do it, everyone, including you, Robert. Will you put one up?
Well, I wanted to yesterday. My wife said she wouldn't let me in case someone threw.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a horrible thing to admit, but she's a wise woman. You've got to be careful. But it's a shame. It's a shame. Robert, regards to your wife. Thank you very much for ringing. Good to talk to you. Call me again. Robert in Hertfordshire. Let's go to the Dordogne now in France and talk to John. Hello, John.
Hi, Kev. Firstly, your previous call was spot on, GB News. You guys should... I don't know what the problem is, but you guys have
Can you people stop calling in and talking about GB News?
They're brilliant. Anyway...
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're our feeble rivals.
Well, they're very good.
Anyway, you say, I say they're rubbish.
Oh, don't be. Carry on, sir. You
don't understand the territory that you are invading here. This is journalism. They're the opposition. Therefore, we hate them. But go on. No, I know what you're saying. But what would you like to say, John?
Right. With this business of the hotels where they've, that they've doing this. Is it illegal what they've been doing?
Well, no. It transpires it's not. It isn't legal because they have continued to call these barracks. They take a hotel, turn it into barracks for asylum seekers. And that's what the High Court decided yesterday. You cannot continue to call these hotels. They're not hotels. So it's not legal, no.
My question is this. If you owned a restaurant, like next door to one of these hotels, and you've been having all the guests from the hotel, then they turn it into the migrant barracks.
Yeah.
You've lost tons of money. Can you sue the government for that as a restaurant?
It's an interesting point. That is a really interesting point. I think, certainly, I think we're going to get a chain reaction of local councils lobbying legally to have their asylum seeker hotels closed down for the same reason that Epping Forest District Council did. So we're going to get that, and you may get local residents and local businesses suing as well. So it could be interesting.
Can I tell you a simple way of stopping the
very quickly, go on.
Right. We get an old ferry, we put it 12 miles out at sea on the border. The UK Border Force takes the migrants to that ship.
Yeah.
When it's got 400 or 500 people on board, sail it down to
where? To the Dordogne. How about that? Let's sail it to the Dordogne, put me off there. How would you like that?
I think all the farmers would shoot at me, Kev.
Yeah. Well, that kind of stuff, you could talk about that stuff till the cows come home. It's never going to happen. Thereby, I don't think it's going to work. But nice idea, John. Thanks for the call, John in the Dordogne. Let's quickly talk to Anne in Sussex. Anne, what would you like to say?
Oh, well, hello to you. There's been so many vital subjects this morning. Obviously, this issue of the migrant hotels with Epping, the trouble that we have is this government wants to turn local authorities into unitary authorities that will have mayors. At the moment, all the issues, I'm in Mid-Sussex, we have the district council, we work closely with all agencies.
Right.
That means people have involvement. But with the larger authorities, it's a few people at the top that make all the decisions. And this really worries me. And
Sorry, Anne, you want local communities to work with their local asylum seeker hotels?
No, I want local people to have a local voice that is listened to. But as soon, and I think somebody mentioned earlier, one of your police guys, that the people that they talk to are the people who will agree with what they want to say. They don't mix with local people from the community. They talk to the people or senior bodies who are on the same page. But can I just say to you, the reason we're in this mess and the reason some of our media, like the BBC, are behaving the way they are, is because that is all part of the communist goals, the 45 goals, which were set up in the late 50s, early 60s. Use the media, use the church, dumb down the schools, break down marriage and relationships.
It's interesting. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, whether or not this is a sort of cogent, cohesive plan by left-wingers, I think is probably far-fetched. But certainly there are elements, large elements of our establishment that are left-leaning, to say the least. They think that those of us who worry about the safety on the streets, worry about the migrant crisis, are somehow racist and far-right, and that is a big problem. Totally agree with you, Anne. Anne, I've got to go because I've got to go to break, but good to talk to you. Anne in Sussex there. Let's go to break. Afterwards, we will take more phone calls and I'll read some more of your messages, so stick around.
let's also not forget, Ian, I think far too many legacy politicos for far too long have turned out to be border-abolishing, Janus-faced plastic patriots who've used our national flag as a mere prop. Yeah. And I think, look, if we are to protect our great civilization inheritance, conserve Britain as Britain, I think the flag has a very central role to play in that. And I think it's about time where we stop in its track, this mad self-immolations of the very foundations of our national unity, and that's the Union flag. And it's about time, I would say.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back to the phones in just a little while. The great Philip Ingram, a debutante, neophyte, will be in the studio in a little while to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment in his first ever show at the helm. So lots to look forward to. He'll do a great job. Here's a text message from Julian. He says, a knicker in the police service. If it wasn't so sick, it would be funny. Here's one from Lorraine in Essex. I mean, this. You remember Annie Valentine, the lady with the crutch, who tackled a shoplifter. This is what Lorraine says. My niece works in the co-op in New Addington. She has been attacked so many times by shoplifters. Last week they threw large bottles of Coke at her, injuring her back and shoulders. She was told if she went off sick she would not get paid. The security guard could not help because he was told he could not touch the shoplifters. Why is he even there then? Really good point, Lorraine. But Lorraine's right. Loads of these big shops, particularly, especially, have this policy that if people walk in, nick stuff, and then walk out, the staff are told don't tackle them. They could be dangerous. I kind of understand that. But if you're going to hire security guards, they should tackle them, shouldn't they? You can't just let them get away with this. It's outrageous, folks. Let's talk to Joan in Sunderland. Joan, you want to talk about Ukraine. What would you like to say?
Yes. Hello, Kevin. If it happens that we send part of our standing army to defend a foreign country, e.g. Ukraine,
yeah.
I think Starmer and co. should be charged with treason for the simple reason that they're allowing our borders to be wide open. Yeah. They're taking part of our standing army to defend a foreign country, and we are just left to anybody who can come from any part of the world we know nothing about, we don't know what they're doing, and we are giving them the red carpet treatment. Wrong.
Yeah, Joan, a lot of people say that. You know, Keir Starmer seems to be extremely fixated on protecting the borders of Ukraine, but doesn't really seem to give much of a damn about Britain's borders, which are incredibly porous thanks to his completely hopeless migration policies.
Well, as I say, that man needs to be removed.
Yeah, how do we do that, Joan? Any ideas? I've got a notebook here.
No.
We're looking for ideas.
I spend half my night away wondering how I can solve that problem.
I'm afraid it's intractable, Joan, but your belief that we need to get rid of this guy is shared by millions of us. Good call, Joan. Thank you for ringing, Joan in Sunderland. Let's go to Brighton and talk to Dennis. Hello, Dennis.
Hello there, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. What would you like to say, mate?
Well, I've just I watch your programme most every day, along with all the other things, and my wife and I, and we're really fed up with this migration problem. But it's come to my knowledge and everything about where we put these migrants if they're going to get chucked out of the hotels, and obviously we're making it too friendly for them. Is Glastonbury. As you obviously well know.
Yes.
I understand that from this last session that I had in the summer, there was 125 tents left behind.
Yeah.
Well, if you say that each one of those little tents you could put 2 people in, that's 250,000 migrants. They've got toilets there. They've got food stalls.
You mean if you put them in, if you put them in Worthy Farm or whatever it's called down at Glastonbury? Because, you know, I mean, what did you say, 150 tents, that's not going to house 250,000 migrants, is it?
Well, yeah, if you've got 2 migrants to each tent.
Hang on, how many tents did you say were left there?
125,000.
Oh, 100, because you said 125 at first. 125.
Oh, sorry.
I'm with you. Sorry, the maths didn't add up. I get you.
That's what we're left behind. I mean, whether some are taken. But I mean, you've got food. Why give them a 3-course meal? Why don't they have burgers and whatever, chips and like that?
Well, so they get really good food. We got behind the doors of an Asylum Seeker hotel not so long ago, and they get a lavish 3 meals a day, plus they get afternoon snacks delivered to their room. It's ridiculous. But in terms of tents, Dennis, you got a good point. I mean, people go, we can't put them in tents, it's inhumane, we can't do that. Well, in France, they're lucky if they get a tent. Apart from that, they get nothing. They get across the channel, they get 4-star hotels, free food, free accommodation, free lawyers, free doctors, free dentists, free driving lessons, and on the list goes. It's ridiculous, Dennis, but good call. Thanks for ringing. Dennis in Brighton there. Oh, my God, it's Philip Ingram is in the studio. How you doing, man?
Good afternoon, young man.
You Mr. Host, how you doing?
I'm yes, stepping
all set,
in today.
All set?
Well, sort of, yeah. We'll cuff it.
What are you going to go with?
Well, we're going to deal with the asylum hotels and asylum accommodation again, because it's such a big subject. You know, I've decided my holidays this year is to take a boat across to France and rubber dinghy back over and get free hotel.
You get a free holiday, yeah.
But, you know, because I'm here, we're going to talk Ukraine. We'll have to get that in a little bit.
Yeah.
The economy. You know, some of the figures that have come out today showing the disaster that we're at. You know, we're being smashed in the pocket, I think.
Yeah.
And then
they're not smashing the gang, smashing our pockets.
Smashing our pockets. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and hopefully people will call in and give us their views. And then talk a little bit about facial recognition software at Notting Hill.
Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah, we've got that coming. I'm going to be away. I won't be here for the Notting Hill Carnival, so that'll be another year when I didn't bother going. But yeah, that's looming. This asylum seeker hotel verdict yesterday in the High Court. If you look into the government's argument, I've been making a big thing of this today. Extraordinary. It's like if you favour the people of Epping, the local council, then you will be, and I'm using the exact phone, you will interfere with the government's sacred right to preserve the human rights of asylum seekers. In other words, migrants, asylum seekers first, British citizens second.
What about the human rights of British citizens? And we'll touch a little bit on flags on that, because it's